Oh God. Um, yeah. So we are gonna get into. We talked a little bit about. We ended uh part one on the topic of Travis Ford's contract, and I think that kicks right into a discussion about Chris May, um, because there is a weird. There's a weird way this contract is set up, if I have that right, Pete.
Yeah, and look, I don't know because I can't say for sure. I can only say what I've been told, but what we've kind of heard through the rumor mill, at the conclusion of last season, we were hearing that he had a springing automatic extension, so that unless one of the parties were to cancel it, it automatically a 5 year contract becomes 5 years again, right? So it just keeps rolling. And I I haven't been able to confirm that because it's just, they never do confirm it. Which is kind of what bothers me about it, right? Like last week, I was reminded of this because in the Cincinnati Enquirer on goxavier.com, like every local website said Sean Miller, head basketball coach at Xavier University, has been extended through 2028, 2029. They just put it out there. It was just a news release. Here's our coach. We extended him. Everybody now knows what his contract is. If we extended Ford at some point, why wasn't that a press release? I know it's a private school and you don't have to, but like, I just don't understand the sort of silence around the way things operate. I don't get it at all. I think people want to know.
So to add on that, to confirm, because none of us know the contract, like the years and everything, the only place that Ford has ever had an extension announced publicly was a random throwaway line in a Ben Fredrickson article prior to the SLU Dayton game in 2020 when Jalen Crutcher hit that shot. Other than that, like you would have no idea that he's even signed an extension. Like they are very hush hush about it. I believe he signed a 5 year deal when he first joined SLU. So I mean, you can use intuition to figure that out. But you're right. They operate very differently from a school like Xavier or Marquette or Creighton that make it very public. They have no obligation to announce an extension, but they do publicize it, and it is strange. I mean, a lot of the things that SLU does are strange, but if you have this confidence, I don't know why you don't parade that out there to say, "Hey, recruits, we have long-term stability, we have this, we have that." Because really, a contract extension is more about solidifying your future for recruiting cycles as much as it is about keeping a guy in the job. A coach is kept only by their buyout. I mean, that's the only thing that ties a coach to their school is if a donor is going to cut a check to buy him out or not, or another athletic department. So it is
Yeah.
weird.
Have the courage of your conviction and project strength, like you just said, for recruiting stability, for just stability in general. So fans know what they have. I just don't get why you hide that. But Carter, I do want to ask because like I found this tweet from February 2021 where you acknowledged that he signed a lucrative extension.
Hmm.
And and you say like there's no evidence that he's going to be leaving anytime soon.
Is this a
Uh,
deposition?
Was that no? I'm just wondering because I remembered the tweet, but I couldn't remember who tweeted it out, whether it was Ben Fredrickson or someone else. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
was that what you heard from him at the time?
From Benfred, yes, because
Yeah.
I have to go back and check because I think if I'm remembering correctly, the because you know you only get the best and the best of the PD, like the full gamut of people at the PD at a SLU basketball game at any one time. Of course, Stu is there every night. Depending on the season, who's competitive, you might get Ben Hockman or Ben Fredrickson or even at a time Tom Temmerman in addition to Stu. I'm almost sure Benfred interviewed Chris May for that story at halftime of the Dayton game,
Hmm.
the Jalen Crutcher game. So it came shortly. That information came during that um during that game that they had signed after the 2019, and so I had it. I mean, I feel pretty comfortable saying it now. Like he came back to the desk and said that that's what had been said, was that
Yeah.
a lucrative deal had been signed, that he'd be around for a while, that it would be very prohibitive to other schools looking to come poach because. And then I learned later that other schools had become sniffing around that time, particularly one school a little farther east had at least broached the idea, and whether that went anywhere, I don't know. But people had come sniffing, and that's when I learned about that. So yeah, I it's basically this one night in I think it was January at Chaffetz Arena for a game, a sold out Billiken Blizzard, that this whole thing got broken by Benfred, and then it never became like a big story. It got into that column, and then it never kind of went anywhere from there. And now we look back and see where we're at.
And I remember that at the time. I remember thinking like, are we going to hear more about like as soon as I saw that, because you were there at the time, I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting." Like, what's that about? How long? You know, what can we get any details? But yeah, there was never
at the time. Travis didn't. I remember I brought it up to Travis once later that year, and he didn't want to talk about it. And then I never got really the time of day from Chris May for things outside of like official media availabilities. And it, like, not to say that he wasn't like a friendly person to me, but if I had like on the record questions, like I never really got that kind of access to him in that way. Everything kind of came through the rabbit holes around the other places. But yeah, I just remember like they didn't want to talk about it, because I think SLU really likes the privacy of the private school like structure. They well yeah, they do for the, like we know this now. Like they see that as a strength rather than like Xavier, who friends in the Inquirer here in Cincinnati like to see it as a big platform. Why disclose anything when you don't have to? Which is a strategy for sure, right? Like professional sports teams don't always have to disclose the contract terms of anything. It's just the reporting that comes after. Unfortunately, when the group is so small at SLU that you can kind of hold those secrets in a little more of an organized way, it's harder to get that kind of reporting done in that sense.
Yeah, they really are secretive. I mean, like I think it allows them to hide. I don't know why they do it, but it feels like they when push comes to shove, they're always hiding.
It seems as though the general consensus that I could pick up is that like they don't subscribe to the any like bad news is news, and any PR like any PR is good PR, right? Like they are very selective in how they want to manage like what gets out there, because they want to manage, they don't want any bad PR, which then ends up leading to like speculation and rumor.
Yeah, right.
And like it does the opposite, but that's all it is. Like then you can say that's all it is. It's just speculation. It's just rumor. Like last year at the end of the 2022 or 2020 and 23, 2022, 23 basketball season, when they're able to point towards like Chris May giving a vote of confidence to Travis, you can just say that's our guy, because no one knows the reality of the situation. No one knows what it's like. Of course he's your, if the answer could be, of course that's your guy, because you have him for another 5 years because of a rolling contract you're stuck with because of a buyout that no one wants to pay. Or you can say that's our guy just because no one knows any better. And so you can always point to speculation as being wrong, because it always will be until it's known. And they get to use that as a shield, when most of the time it probably works. I'm willing to bet that like most actual controversy that could potentially happen never gets out because of the anonymity of it. But like it leaves people who care the most about these kinds of things in the dark, which we've talked about, I think, on the last episode, isn't exactly the place you want your fan base feeling. You want them to feel inclusive, like everyone's a part of this. But that's, again, we're getting back into what we talked about last episode with that.
Yeah, and I do think that I see both sides of the stance that SLU takes with not having to publicize things because they're private, but in the eyes of the fans, maybe they keep a little bit too much held back. I know that the four of us are frustrated often when we want to find some info and it's very cagey and it's like Fort Knox. But I do think you brought up a good point, Carter, that in the spring following last season, that everyone's beat to death and everyone's got a stance on Ford. It's not really changing at this point for most people. But people would reach out to us, and the number one question was, is Chris May giving Travis Ford a vote of confidence because they can't afford buying him out, or is he giving him a vote of confidence because the athletic department and the major boosters, all the way down, anyone who can make an impact, truly believes that this is the guy to take that next step at a program that, when you introduced him, that was promised. That was, these last 2 years under Jim Crews were unacceptable. We think that we want to build the positive momentum of this program forward. We just view that as a little speed bump after the heights of Rick Majerus that Jim Crews carried out. I don't necessarily know. And that's the really frustrating part sitting here, that I really don't like speculating on people's jobs, but there is a very strong air that no matter what happens this season, which we're going to get into in a little bit, it feels like, based on stuff we've heard, that it doesn't matter what happens this season. And in year 8 of a coaching tenure, that's not exactly a great place to be that puts you at ease.
You're saying it doesn't matter, as in, like, no matter what the result is, he's sticking around.
Yeah, based on
just being
based
clear.
on the messaging that's come out from things, without getting too far into it, because like we said, we don't know the big piece. I mean, he could have 2 years left in his deal. We have no idea. He's just as likely. It's like a Schrodinger's box. Like, he's just as likely to have 5 years on his deal as he is 3 at this point, or 2. We truly don't know.
Who puts together a contract that like what is the advantage of having that extra, like it's almost like if they stop renewing you, if they kick in the clause, it's like being put on a performance plan at work.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like ceasing that, in effect, is like what Iowa just did with their offensive coordinator, where they issued an ultimatum saying, oh, if you don't average 25 points a game this year, you're fired. Because the second one party opts out of that, it's either, because the rumor I heard is that either side can opt out. So if the coach opts out, it means, hey, I might be looking to bolt. If the school opts out, it's, hey, we're possibly moving on from you. So I don't know why you do that, other than to, like I said before, just keep the buyout, and that's your main defense mechanism. Because, I mean, we know for a fact he makes $2.5 million a year, in that neighborhood, and it goes up every year based on the IRS forms that you can pull that all nonprofits have to disclose. He's their highest paid employee. They have to disclose his salary. It's just an IRS requirement. But aside from that, you can kind of glean what his buyout is from that. If it is a 4 or 5 year deal, his buyout's around 12.5 million bucks. Auto renewing for a year means it's always going to be around 12.5 million bucks. Makes it really hard for Western Kentucky to come buy you out. But it doesn't prohibit a school in the Big East, like if Xavier wanted him instead of hiring Sean Miller. It's not going to prevent someone like Xavier from doing it, but it's going to prevent a lot of your other mid-majors that might want to elevate themselves to where SLU has been. That's the only reason I can think of it.
The thing, so, just to be clear on it though, like as soon as, if SLU were to say, we're not going to, we're going to cut off the springing extension this year, there's still it just shortens the tail, right? It just means that doesn't go out another 5 years. Like, now we're at 4 years, and then next year it'll be 3 years.
Well,
and so forth.
If it's as publicized, I mean, we could be completely off base. This could just be someone fed someone bad information. I mean, I think the four of us heard it from enough places where there probably is some truth to it.
There's enough smoke.
But I mean, who knows even too, if it's like, all right, you decline it 1 year, does that mean you decline it in perpetuity and then you have to renegotiate a new deal? I don't know. I mean, I've personally never heard of a contract like this, but maybe this is common. Maybe this is what he had at Oklahoma State, and his agent said, if you want us to stay here long term, that we need to have this kind of security. I really don't know. I know he had a massive buyout from OSU.
Yeah, I don't think that's what he had at OSU. I just think he had signed one extension there, right? So he still had
I,
some years. But I
sure.
know Kentucky, Calipari's contract is unbelievable. Like his buyout is it would be the
It's like
highest in college
50
sports
million, I
history.
think.
Yes.
It's because
And even then, he still is guaranteed some sort of position within the
yeah,
university. And
it's like an ambassadorship or something. Because
right,
he signed, like, I remember when he signed his deal, they called it you won't be able to see it because Zach covers me up, but like a lifetime contract.
right.
Like I don't know what that consists of, like if he has that component or if it's just if someone else wants to negotiate with me, they have to write this fat check to Kentucky. I don't know, but
The details of Travis Ford's buyout at Oklahoma State were public because it's a public institution, and in a board of regents vote, he was paid in a lump sum 3.9 million, though he was due 7.2 million. So a lump sum payment of 3.9 to get out from the remaining years. And then he was also paid $35,962.08 in unused vacation time, which is really funny. Which is really funny to think about.
That's the best part.
That is from Kyle Boone of pistolsfiring.com.
So that's not uncommon. You know that you see.
You got to
like,
pay out vacation. It's the
West
law.
Pine
You have
just
to.
missed that. Oh my god!
You heard that? What did you hear that, West Pine?
I'm assuming you're laughing at his buyout structure, but I don't know.
The buyout structure at Oklahoma State was a lump sum of 3.9 million due on a certain date 8 years ago, which is he was owed 7.2, so he got a lump sum buyout, and then he was also paid $35,962.08 in unused vacation time.
Oh, that's incredible. I
That's
do know
really
too.
good.
I do know that one of the reasons that SLU was able to get him, or at least they were able to work it into their budget originally, is because he had a clause in his contract that Oklahoma State had to pay the difference between whatever his salary was there and the salary at the new school. So SLU paid him like $1 million the first couple of years he was here, and OSU was on the hook for $2.5 million, I want to say. Yeah. He I'll say this, if nothing else, whoever his agent is a really good agent. I would like them to negotiate every contract I have because he gets some fantastic deals.
It's not all that uncommon too. Like when you see a coach leave a big public school like that they wind up settling for a lump sum that would be less than what the years multiplied by salary would be. So that's not all that uncommon, and it would be even less if it was like a Chris Mack situation where he left and amid like a fireable, a sort of offense, right? Like because I think he settled for less than half of what his buyout would have been at Louisville. Just because of the allegations and everything that he was fighting there at the time. So I guess it's not uncommon to see something like that. But regardless, I don't know what that looks like on for SLU right now. I wish we knew how many years there were.
That's a good question, and I was thinking, do you think that they stopped it after the end of last season?
I mean, it depends on who you believe, right?
What I know to be, well, I don't know it to be true. What I've heard enough is that when Chris May makes statements like giving the full support behind Travis Ford right before the A10 tournament, is that he really believes that this is Chris May, really believes that by giving the vote of support, he is in some way tangibly helping the basketball team by giving them the confidence to go into the tournament and feel good about their coach, that's going to help performance in the tournament. So what I glean from that is that just because he said that, thinking he can help the team, doesn't mean he then took that, vote of support and actualized it in a contract, in a renewal. To me, that doesn't mean those two things are necessarily linked. Could it be both ways? Yes. I just don't know if we can take 100% of his word in that sense and say, just because he said, I believe in you, he renewed the contract at the end of the year to have the extension.
Yeah, and to build off that, because something I did want to talk about tonight is we don't really know what Travis is evaluated on. I think most people don't know what coaches are evaluated on as fans because it's not publicized. But, publicly, and perhaps it's just a PR spin to say, we're actually fine. It's just to push down the negative fans that are on social media. But all offseason, we heard how great it is that SLU continues to get 20 wins in basketball, that, we have smart kids, they're graduating, whatever. Mm-hmm. We don't know if that's all they expect out of the basketball program. I mean, West Pine Bills, we spent a lot of the summer ripping this 20-win benchmark that's paraded around publicly. Internally, I have no idea if that's what they're actually evaluating him on, because if that is, then yeah, I bet they renewed it because they reached their goal that they evaluate coaches on. I don't know that to be true, though. I would hope it's not true. I think that's a very low bar to clear, one that's very arbitrary. But I think until someone who is connected and who has sources in the AD can actually get this information out of someone, I think it's just throw a dart at a dartboard and you're probably right or wrong. You have an equal shot.
I guess the one thing I'll say, and look, Zach and I have said this repeatedly, we like Travis, we want him to win. We're rooting for him. We're rooting for this team.
Yeah.
If their internal goal is 20 wins a season, just to be a winning program, period, they're paying a lot for that. You can get 20 wins for a lot cheaper than $2.5 million a year. I don't know if they realize that or not, but I would have to think that for that amount of money, they have higher aspirations. I would certainly hope. And if you have higher aspirations, it doesn't feel good as a fan to hear we feel good about 20 wins this year.
I feel like if the 20 wins thing wasn't so generic, I'd be really care less about it.
Yeah.
If you looked at the last 8 years and they, let's liberally, sorry, not conservatively say, okay, they made the tournament in 2019. Let's say they make the tournament in 2020. We went over this last time. It's not a guarantee. Let's just, for the sake of the argument, say, and they make the tournament either last year or the year before that. So you got 3 tournaments in the span of those 8 years, which is, I think everyone here would be really pleased with. And then you go into this year and you look at the roster and go listen, this just isn't the same group. It's a young team. We graduated a lot. We have a generation gone. We would be really pleased with 20 wins. I'd be okay, that's not an unreasonable framework to build from, because you have the pool of success to look back to. But when you just say 20 wins generally after, a handful of NITs and a disappointing year last year, it kind of takes away from anything. So the 20 wins isn't the thing I'm most upset with. It's the framing around what 20 wins actually means.
Yeah, and I feel like it's, at least in relation to last season, it just felt like goalpost moving. I mean,
yeah.
Lost in the conversation every time that last season has been framed was they were receiving votes in preseason top 25 lists, and they lost at home to SIU, which should, never happen. They lost on the road to a horrendous Richmond team when they were up by 19 points. They did not beat VCU either time. They got embarrassed at Dayton on Friday night. It was a team that came in with legit expectations and pretty much at every opportunity to prove that they were worthy of those expectations faltered. Mm-hmm. And then we're being told in retrospect, the season was a success because we reached this arbitrary goal that at the beginning of the year, we all know was not their goal. So it just feels like the moving part. That's the thing. I think I texted this to you all. I would have respected a lot more after the year if they would have just come out and said, look, we're sticking with Travis. We did not meet our expectations for last year. We think that we have a plan to turn it around, and we feel good about that plan. That's all they needed to say. And whether or not you believe it or not is a different thing, but it's all about framing. There's a degree of self-projected confidence here that when you come out and say, oh, shucks, we've won 20 games in the last 4 full seasons, with the COVID year being the exception. Look at how great we are. That's great, but at the end of the day, you're paying, like you said, Pete, you're paying so much money for 20 wins. And you can do that at a much more cost-effective level. I mean, there's guys at the low major level that could step into SLU's resources and win 24 games tomorrow. It's not as difficult as they make it seem, but
especially with the scheduling.
Yeah, and it's
kind of
well, and
part
that's
of
the
it,
thing, right? It's
right?
not just
Like,
20
yeah.
wins based on the roster we had last year and the expectations we had last year. It's 20 wins in the landscape of college basketball in the A10 right now. 20 wins is meaningful if we are a Big Ten team and we're given the benefit of the doubt and we can win just enough games in non-conference and go 500 in the league and get a tournament spot. That's when 20 wins is meaningful. 20 wins in the year 2023 for St. Louis University is not meaningful. It means you probably missed the NIT, right? I mean, like 20 wins may have meant something in Conference USA when we were playing Cincinnati and Marquette, Memphis and DePaul
Louisville.
twice a year, Louisville twice a year. That's completely different. It just doesn't mean anything when you're in what has just become a single bid league, clawing its way back to a multi-bid league. But I don't know if it's going to be this season. I just like, people have to know that, right? Like fans know that. It's not just the fact that we had a senior heavy team that was supposed to be good.
I think that's the cognitive dissonance going on, right? Is that like fans are being told one thing and everyone's looking around at each other and going like, "Wait, no, that's not."
Yeah,
I know that's not right, but no one's willing to like stand up and say like,
Well, and not to beat a dead horse on these 2 points because they are brought up frequently, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but in Ford's 7 years, we're 0-for against ranked opponents. In our matchups, I think it's like 0-12 or 0-13. We don't play ranked opponents that often, but we don't beat them. And, it goes back to on Billikens.com when he was hired, someone said, you hire him because you hope to accumulate enough talent where the coaching doesn't matter. Was last year's roster perfect in retrospect? No. Was it his most talented team? I would say that or 2019. But I probably would lean towards last year's team at full health. They were more talented. And maybe I'm wrong because 2019 had Goodwin and French and Isabel, but
it's probably 2020 when we actually look back in hindsight as to who was there.
Yeah, young Perkins, but the point
young
remains
Perkins,
that,
young
like,
Yuri, Gibson, like that, the crossover year.
Yeah, like last year, the A10 was not good enough to justify finishing 12-6 in it. It just was not. So it's just kind of the thing, like, all right, how much talent then do we really need to get to 15 wins in the A10? Because if last year is your most talented modern iteration and you finish with 12 wins, that's pretty concerning to me, considering his X and O deficiencies.
I mean, it's funny because like a really like Ken Pom is not obviously the be all end all, but like the Ken Pom has SLU's projected conference schedule going 9-9, which to me means like in the A10 means 12-6 isn't horribly like a deviation from that like projection. Like, could this team go 12-6 and you look back at these last two teams and go like, wow, same team, like that's the same squad right there. Really think we have the same amount of talent on these two teams. Yep, same thing. I just don't think that's I'm with you, West Pine. Like it's just ridiculous to look at that and oh yeah, 12-6. That was it.
I think it's interesting to think about because you see a lot of the strategy on like the holding, you talk about like at the end of the season, the party line is instead of silence or just not acknowledging, it's, what we're very excited. It's no matter what, it's a positive spin. Like, we don't want to spin. We want you to throw it straight at us, but throw it straight at us with say it with your chest. Like, say we didn't do well. Something went wrong. We believe we can fix it. And Travis Ford's the guy to help us fix it.
Yeah. And it's not a hard message to relay. You just have to admit that something didn't go right, which I don't think I've ever heard this program say.
They are dishonest.
But every time
they're dishonest by commission, not or by omission and not commission.
Yeah.
That's kind of like that's their strategy is to, not if they don't get something right, they didn't say it.
Well, and like, I mean, I even go back to when they fired Cruz. Like, even that was not like it was framed in a way where it's like, oh, he did great for these 2 years, and these two weren't as good. Not like we messed up by hiring this guy to succeed Rick Majerus, which I will go to my grave and say that that is the biggest mistake in the modern history of their athletic program is not doing a national coaching search. And it doesn't take much to just say, we got it wrong. Let us get it right. That's all you got to do. Companies do that. CEOs do that. There are plenty of examples of this.
We got it wrong. Let's, and even if like you want to admit, like even if and when they don't, if or when they do fire Travis Ford, if at some point they will still not admit that and say, "Hey, we got basketball wrong for a bit. Look at what we've done with men's soccer. Look at what we've done with women's soccer, women's basketball. Let us cook."
It won't even be that hard because, like, when you look back at Travis's tenure here, like there haven't been horrific years. There've been underwhelming years, but like nothing under Travis has been really that bad. So you can always just point to he served us well. Like he was a great hire for us, and it's just time for us to go. Like you don't even have to say you did anything wrong. You don't have to say you failed. Like you don't even have to pull the card of like, well, look at soccer, they're great, because you don't even have to look that far. The 20-win seasons are right there to use. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, and I mean he'll finish his tenure as the winningest coach at SLU or second winningest.
Damn close. It's like he's
I can't
third
remember
now.
I can't remember what he's at, but
that's not based on percentage, right?
It's close.
It would be total wins.
I think it's total wins because he passed Majerus last year, I think.
Is he just hitting that tenure? Is that like he's been okay, but he's just had a long tenure here?
I mean, that's part of it. How many people do we have last that long?
But I mean, I think I brought this up last episode. Like, he has an argument for leading us to the most successful 4 or 5 year history
in terms of wins,
year stretch in the history of our program. I mean, if the year with the COVID interruption, even if they would have played like an extra week of games, I mean, tack on a few more wins, his win percentage once you get past that first couple of years is as high as anybody that's been here. I mean, I think even with those 2 years,
we're about to enter the 22-23 season, right? That's the one we're going into here.
No,
23-24. God damn it!
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I got to do some math here, because they've taken down the history book off the website.
I was just looking for it. Where is
it? It's probably because they're updating it and it's just going through it to add.
No, they're just erasing the history card.
History of it. Yeah.
It's gonna come up. It's gonna come up. They actually won 26 games last year, and they're just gonna gaslight you into thinking that.
Yeah, like because I know it's just like either BK or another staff member who just goes through it and makes sure everything's correct. But I know it's a pretty big effort, so I'm almost it's right around this time. I mean, basketball's about to start that they update it and then have it last throughout the year.
He had a higher win percentage than Majerus as of like February, because I remember I put together some spreadsheet and tweeted it out, and someone was like, "Oh, that's not a fair comparison." I was like, "Well, I don't really care because I'm just doing something here." Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think at this point we're all in the dark on how long he's going to be here and what he's evaluated on, and I'd rather talk about this team and not this tenure, mainly because it exhausts me at this point.
Through 2023 is the 7th highest winning percentage, 3rd most wins.
Well,
it's a fun game.
Pete, well, I'm gonna let you kind of direct us and see where do we take this from here? Do we want to talk about, we've shit on men's basketball pretty much for the last since we started this recording.
Buy season tickets for women's basketball. Sorry to cut in. Just do it. They're gonna be good. They're gonna be super good. If you want to see good basketball in Midtown, go watch them play. They're going to be awesome.
Yeah. But what were you asking?
This is West Pine Bills is actually Rebecca Tillett's burner account.
That'd be so cool. Like Rebecca is just on this call right now, and we're using some extremely complicated voice modulator to like
She's just always been a Billiken fan since
the
she was
whole time.
a little girl. This was her like she was just undercover. This was a long con. No, do we want to talk about because there's a lot of talk about how great the non-revenue sports are. Do we want to get into kind of weighting the success of the athletic department under Chris May versus just men's basketball?
I'll talk about any of it, man. I mean, I gotta say, like, if we're gonna get into those sports, you can't argue with how good a hire, Katie Shields was, Rebecca Tillett was. Like those are home run hires. Even though it's been 1 year under Tillett, she did the thing that no other coach in the history of that program has been able to do in her first year. Like that's it. You won. Like that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Undeniable. You and I both love the volleyball hire, obviously. Right. Another early going, but we think it's a home run hire for sure. I don't really have a whole lot of gripes with the at least the major hiring decisions made in the non-revenue sports. I think they've all been very good. Yeah. Hendrickson we like a lot. I'm thinking about all these sports right now. I'm like, I really like all these people. There are things about the way the department as a whole is maybe run that I think is shortchanging some of those sports. But I don't think that's a reflection on the people actually running those programs.
Right. No. So I'm more or less saying we talk about how Chris May is judged as an athletic director when it comes to, the men's basketball program as opposed to the success of the rest of the program.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, everybody knows, even the coaches of those sports know that men's basketball kind of it's the engine. And that's where the revenue comes in, and that's where the fan interest originally comes in and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it has to be in good shape for the rest of the thing to function. And I mean, they benefit from men's basketball bringing more revenue in. Like they want that program to be good more than they want any other individual program to be good, just because the benefit is there for them. So make no mistake about any of that. I do think we probably at SLU have a situation where the athletic department is being looked at as a whole more so than it is at other schools where it's football, or if they don't have football, basketball, right? I think an athletic director's job is a lot more tied to those sports at a power conference program than it is at ours.
Yeah, can't disagree with that, right? Like that's when your biggest programs are basketball, football, that's what drives the train. That's the lead.
Who's have we talked about this, Peter? Is this somewhere else or somebody else I was talking with about how Hendrickson every year takes his players out to the field? Or he talks about, oh, check out that see that wall, the new wall we got? That's because basketball won a few extra games.
Yeah, he did say
basketball.
Right, he said that on our show. Right,
I think in a lot of ways, Chris May and the men's basketball program have a duty to, win games because everybody else's job relies on them.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing that keeps me up at night about the non basketball programs at the school is losing those coaches, because like you don't just replace a Katie Shields easily, right? Like a national coaching search. Like I can't even imagine there's another one out there that we could get who's not already at one of the powerhouse programs, right? Like that's the situation that I worry about is losing those coaches just because they have an opportunity where they'd have some more resources. That's what I really worry about there. So you've got to make sure that men's basketball program is healthy. It's just like that's first and foremost. I don't think you'd be neglecting other programs to make that your number one priority. I think it's the as we just said, I think it's the contrary to that.
Where do you guys think, one thing that Chris May hasn't had to deal with, and anybody in the athletic department hasn't had to deal with, is NIL, and we talked about it. What At what point do you think St. Louis University Athletics should be hiring somebody that's in the NIL space, or should it be, a part of like the compliance? Like, I mean, it's clearly moving that way. We talked about it last episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's heading directly for school sponsored NIL. However that manifests itself.
I think at a bare minimum, before the framework is in place for SLU to have NIL kind of operated in-house, which, I think we all think that's where it's going. In the interim, I think what they need to do, on the top of my mind, because UMass just did this, they need to officially name the Billiken Victory Fund as their NIL partnership. Maybe I'm wrong and they did this already and they put out a press release, but if you go to UMass's athletic website, they have this press release on how, after seeing them operate for a year, that this is officially who they're partnered with and this is who you should be directing your money to, and it's kind of a backdoor into that. I don't know if it makes sense to have someone on staff right now from an NIL facilitation perspective, but from compliance and beefing up that department, sure. I mean, it's going to be really tricky, and until they kind of make sweeping changes to how schools can interact with NIL at a national level, or Missouri changes their state law to be more accepting of in-house NIL, which I think a couple of states have done, I'm not sure it makes sense to allocate a salary for someone that, hey, you can't do this right now, but we're moving that way. But I don't know. I'm not as well versed in this as others are around the A10.
The staff should get bigger if they want to be who they say they are. If they want to be the department that they claim to want to be, which is, we go back to this as to what are the expectations. The last time stated expectations were they wanted to, we know what they want to accomplish. The staff should be bigger. They should have more resources as a, in-house in terms of things like that. We've talked, we've seen some of that happen, right? Just like their in-house media department, that looks more legitimate now. That translates very well into social media, that kind of stuff. But then, you get into this week and there's basketball season's about to start. We're still waiting on answers on a lot of different people. How can we be more engaged in, as a department, facilitating those things? How can we make sure students are being taken care of? How can we make sure students are feeling like they're being paid attention to? Having more staff allows you to do that. I know that's a lot easier said than done. I don't fully understand the operating budget that it takes to staff a department. That's beyond my understanding. I know kind of what the salary ranges are, funny enough, through kind of some own personal life experience, but that's not here nor there. But I would say that having more people involved is not a bad thing, which I feel sometimes this athletic department might see as a bad thing. But I don't understand the intricacies of getting people in or out of the building.
Yeah, while you guys have been talking, I've been looking at some of our Big East, I can't say peers, but maybe the programs that we aspire to be. And I don't see in these staff directories, I don't see NIL specific titles. That's not to say they don't have that function. I'm not seeing that spelled out as much. I don't know what the title would be of the person who handles that, for what it's worth. But what I can tell you is these staffs are much bigger. I'm looking at certain departments and there are more people, in some cases 2 or 3 times as many. SLU's staff directory is pretty bare bones. If I'm looking at, like right now, I'm looking at Creighton, for example, one of the programs that was mentioned as who we want to be competing with in the NIL space. And we're certainly not competing with them when in terms of filling out a full athletic department staff. There are people here, there are positions here, there are backups here that we just do not have. And that's it's just clear looking at this thing. So who in here is handling NIL, if anyone internally at these places? I don't know. So I also don't know. I don't know if these schools are like preemptively hiring people who can be specialists in that, if that is the direction it goes, where schools are managing it more directly. I really don't know yet, but if the one thing I think SLU has to do is just always be aware of what the landscape is, right? Like I haven't seen any indication yet that they are ready to play in the current NIL field. I just think it's way more money, it's way more it's just way more active and aggressive than I think they thought it would be. And hearing May and some of the others who have talked about NIL publicly, it just sounds like they're a little overwhelmed by it. Like they don't necessarily like it. They're, begrudgingly going along with it, but I don't hear a tone of like, yeah, we're ready to get out there and compete in this space.
This is really unfortunate because the first school I looked up, Marquette, has hired Madison Dunker to be the NIL general manager for Marquette Athletics.
There's the next school I was going to look at and hadn't gotten to yet.
It's just the first one. It just happened to be the first one I went to. They hired her in March to be the general manager of NIL. It appears to be that she works for some kind of like outsource, like I don't know if it's a consulting, because it's through Atlas Sports Partners.
Is that her direct employer?
She's on the school website. It's like, I think it's like Learfield. Like, because Learfield is the next down on the list of the directory, but she's got an at Marquette email and an at Atlas Sports email listed.
Interesting. So, okay,
but it says Marquette's first the bio says Madison Dunker started as Marquette's first NIL general manager in March 2023. That's the first line in her bio.
So as I've been trying to, here in Cincinnati, I've been trying to figure out what Xavier's doing. And I've reached out to some people who I know who are kind of involved in their program. And I think the person that I've been given, who I'm currently emailing with, trying to set up a call or something, was probably the equivalent of her, because it's someone who works for a marketing firm and not necessarily for Xavier, but I'm told works with Xavier in the NIL space.
It's probably the sneaky way around everything.
Yeah, right. To have it be more of a contract position than a third party than a direct hire. So interesting. Okay, well, I'll have more to come on that hopefully in the next few weeks. But anyway.
Sounds good.
I'm trying out here.
Hey, West Pine, you got anything on? You always got some things on your mind you want to rant on. What do you got? I'm giving you the floor to start a. I want to start a dialogue.
Let him cook.
I mean, not in regards to NIL. I think we've
anything. We're going off the rails.
All right. Well, yeah, just because we mentioned it before you clicked recording. I think it's in the show notes. I don't know. Please, for the love of God, tell me that the gray jerseys are gone, that they are not in rotation for this year. Okay, I'm going to take a step back. So, one thing that has been noted, and maybe it has been criticized from the people responsible for it in response, I will not say neither here nor there, but that the marketing for the men's basketball program has been significantly down this year. And part of that goes around a lack of certainty on what the jerseys are going to be, which we have had for the past few seasons, where we knew we did blue, white, black, and the grays, unfortunately. We have no idea what their jersey rotation is this year, as like half of the A10 this week was tweeting out like, oh, look at our cool new threads. Look at this. Look at that.
Yeah.
From the photo shoots and from the exhibition games, I think they're the same exact jerseys as last year.
Yeah.
Which is really disappointing. I think they were fine, but like not exceptional. I think the best jerseys they've had under Ford were like the 2019, 2020, 2021. There's a 3-year stretch where they were pretty good in that period and they moved off it, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, if they come out in a game in those gray jerseys with that Billiken that is like 3 square inches and you can barely see it in the dead center of their chest, I am going to be so mad that I have to sit and watch that on my TV. I cannot stomach it. I would rather see us lose by 30 than watch a game where they wear those ugly ass jerseys.
So I think
Hate
that's
them.
the issue. I think you just touched on the issue right there is on TV, right? Because like on TV, you can't see that Billiken. You can
Terrible.
you can't really see names and numbers and everything. It's just like it all kind of washes out on that gray. I think the blue striping is probably too thin, so the white and the gray blends a little bit. I don't know. My
Yeah.
eyes aren't what they used to be, regardless. But it's probably one of those things where somebody designed them and up close they look fine, but then you put them on TV and it makes no sense.
And I think I think unfortunately, for as much as like I think we all love college sports partially because of the experiences we had watching it up close. I think that that's the magic of college sports. You have this very strong affinity towards it. And yes, I care about what the jerseys look like in person. In today's realm or world, I don't know, realm. This isn't like Lord of the Rings or something.
In all the
In today's
realms.
world, in today's world, you have to design stuff to look good on TV because that's where a majority of your fans are going to see it. That's where a recruit is going to see it. That's where your social media clips are going to come from. It's not going to come from some guy that's 3 rows deep that's got a great view and can see, wow, that really pops in person. And I'll be honest, seeing those gray jerseys up close, they don't look good in person either. They look lazy. They look like Nike's 19-year-old intern that goes to Oregon was like, hey, look what I made. Let's blast this gray template out to 40 schools. Because it looks bad on other schools too. Like Gonzaga had a variant of it. Looked awful.
Like the logo center with the
else.
number above it. Is that like the style you're
Yeah.
talking about or the color?
Both.
Okay.
And like they have a different gray one now, Gonzaga, where it just says Zags across the top and it looks fine. I just think like SLU has a very prominent, I mean, they have their own shade of blue, I believe, technically.
Yeah.
I think they have their own unique like RGB code. You have like a very distinct shade of blue, you have a very distinct mascot, and that jersey does nothing to highlight either of those things. Just get rid of it. Yeah, I'm fine with the blue. I'm fine with the white. If you want to do a blackout game every year, that's fine. Just don't throw a lazy jersey out there.
I thought they were beige for the longest time. I got to be honest.
What I don't like on the white jerseys are the kind of like the little almost like the little feathery what would you call it on the side. We don't have solid piping down the sides. It's got like
where they
hash
do
marks.
like it's like the old, well, so it's like the slanted version, but like I very distinctly remember a lot of the mid 2000s, like DePaul and Marquette, they had variants of those that looked good because they had kind of brighter colors to work with, where we as use blue and white and it just doesn't pop. Yeah, I would rather the solid piping. Also, kind of a hot take, I don't love the arch on the back. It kind of washes out, except on the white jerseys where it's the blue arch. I don't think it looks great on the blues, but I don't know, nitpicking at this point.
I think you got to keep the arch. I like the arch. I think you can make it work better probably, but like I like that as like the way it's just sort of there in the background, like it is on the Cardinals outfield or whatever. Like it's not like its own color or anything. But
are you are you guys pro or against, like a lot of cities or schools have the city skyline on it? Are you pro or against putting an arch somewhere on the Chaffetz court? Because I feel like it's a very hot topic.
Pro before I use the restroom. Pro.
Or on court design. What about you, Carter?
Just the arch, because I mean, outside of like,
I
mean, there are buildings in the St. Louis skyline that you'd know are from St. Louis, but I think the arch is your most distinctive feature.
I think I'm anti because I just can't imagine a way in which it would actually come up looking good. I think the arch shape doesn't exactly work on a rectangle floor the way you want it to, where you want it to arch around the center court logo. I think like any arch that's going to like replicate the actual gateway arch, you're going to have to like either cut off at the top to make it look right, or it's going to look way too wide and it's going to look like like a bridge or something. So I think no, I don't want that. I think the floor we have right now actually is pretty good. I don't mind it. It's clean. It's distinctively Billiken. You'd have to do something really, like the worst thing you could possibly do is the Oregon trees. I think that's the worst floor in college basketball. I think.
I would throw out the UMass court. Their Massachusetts outline. They have it.
Yes, you're right. That is
so
bad. That's worse. You're absolutely really right.
Bad. And normally I'm a fan of the two-toned wood design, but I don't think there's a way to make it work at Chaffetz just because of. I agree, it's a good floor. I would throw out that I would like, and I've actually, while I have my soapbox, I would like one game a year, just one, where they do a retro jersey and a retro Billiken on the court. That would be like my one thing that I would like to see.
See that this is just something one. Where this is something I know, like I know like why it's a want. It's a thing that I have become privy to, like how expensive it is to have a floor and like having multiple floors.
But you can do so, Carter. You can do a floor wrap, and I know because I put one down. Like I know how it works for a center court logo.
To like floor,
it's probably a couple.
It would have to be bigger than it would have to cover the current Billiken on all sides, though, right? Which is
correct.
Based on some of the old logos, would be kind of tricky to do. You know, like Billiken standing there spinning a ball on his finger, you'd probably have the face of the other one sticking out on either side.
You would just cover it. You would just it would be like it would match your hardwood.
Yeah, your jersey, but
or your
hardwood. There is a way to do it though, Carter. I'll explain offline why I know this. I don't want to reveal too much on here.
No, I know. You don't have to explain that part of it.
Yeah, no, you've told us.
Yeah.
No, but I've been a part of putting it down and picking it up, and it's possible, and it's a couple $100 in vinyl. It's not like, and you don't notice on TV. That's the beauty of it.
I think there's a huge. They do this a lot in Europe, and I know in Australia because following the Billikens and that have been down there, I know that they have a major issue with those wraps. Like they're like the players are like revolting because of how slick they get.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the texture changing in different spots in the court, and you get that sometimes when there's like when you're playing at like an MTE and they slap down the logo of whatever the event is for 3 days on the floor, and it's a clearly different feel than the rest of the floor. So I kind of am with the players on that one. Like if we can avoid different textures, I guess right at mid court, it's not as big a deal, you know, like because some of those logos wind up being kind of like a wing 3-pointer. So I guess it's not as big a deal, but and if you get like, you know, a high quality vinyl, like the right material, it would be better. But yeah, for what it's worth. And I also like a clean, you know, bold but simple floor design. I like the floor design we have now. I think I agree with Carter that it would be tough to get the right size of the arch in there if you wanted to kind of keep the right shape. It would either look too small or too big, or you'd have to cut it off awkwardly. So yeah, I kind of like what we're doing now. I'm not a big fan of some of the crazy courts out there. Go look up San Jose State's new court at some point, you know, if you're listening to this.
Well,
it's just too much.
The NBA courts just came out for the in-season tournament.
Oh, they're terrible.
Preposterous. Well, first of all, the in-season tournament, dumb. The court design.
Disagree. But go ahead.
I like it actually.
Oh, you guys are shills.
This is a SLU. This is a SLU sports podcast.
Yes.
Hey, you're gonna get to see Jordan Goodwin get more playing time because the Suns are not going to play anyone of consequence in that tournament.
They're regular season games, right? Like that's the thing.
I know,
but that's the thing is that I like is that they are like the first rounds, like the group stage games are just part of the regular season. So like if you can either care about the tournament or not, you can just watch the regular season and there's a tournament going on, or you can care about the tournament and watch that aspect. It's only the semifinal and final games that are like additional games that will count towards just the tournament. It makes it so that you can pick it. So like Zach, you're doing the
No, I get
hands in
it.
the air thing. It lets so that you can watch the games and not even know a tournament's going on and just enjoy it in the same way. That rather than like going through it where it's like I've now gone through a Leagues Cup and US Open Cup run in the MLS, and it's like, God damn, this is like a whole extra,
Yeah.
35% work.
By the way, the Leagues Cup stinks.
No comment legally.
Yes, sir. No,
but
I think
it's a lot of work, right? So like this is just the same thing, and you can care about it or not. I think that's a great idea, but that's not a SLU basketball podcast.
I care about it. The courts stink, though. They're terrible.
Have we talked? Speaking of courts, and jersey like throwback jerseys, man. I just every time I want to get back to like improving the game day experience, because right now you're looking at a year that's probably not going to be very fun. And this is a prime opportunity for the athletic department to try some new shit.
So what would you try? What's first on your list?
Well, the one thing I have always said is they should put on the backboard a CO2 canister and fire it in the air after every 3-pointer.
Okay.
They
All
did that
right.
in
That's a
Australia,
start.
and it's badass.
There may be rules against that, but it's something.
But I think, but more reasonably, they need to have the fire every game. They need to get it like just lock in on the way things are done, do it right, and entertain the fans that are in the building when the play's not going on. Like, I just think the in-game experience is from game to game completely different.
I think that's the primary thing that bugs me is the inconsistency.
Yeah.
We've got budget to do this 6 times this year, and we can do this 3 times. It's just like I don't know. I go to other schools' games, and it's the same thing every time. If I go to Dayton or if I go to UC or Xavier or any of the ones around here, like it's more or less the same game day experience. Like they have and it feels like they have a professional operation. Like this is what we do and when. Like this is how we build our home atmosphere. That's a consistent experience for our crowd. And I don't really get that at SLU. I don't know if you guys have any more ideas too in terms of game day experience. I mean, like I guess the band issue is short up. I guess that's
what
gonna be
Carter.
taken care of.
Any thoughts on that one? Anything?
I don't know anything about it anymore. Short up, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know it. I didn't know where it ended up at.
The new director
Wait, can I
seems like
ask-
a good hire. I don't know.
Carter, can I ask a very unrelated question that none of us would have insight into? How's the media spread?
Oh, it went from pretty good my first couple of years to really bad to kind of came back around last year.
What would be the
COVID-
bad side?
COVID got rid of it altogether.
Uh,
Like for like 2-ish years, it just was gone altogether. And then, well, now it's not even a spread, to be clear. It used to be that like the Chaffetz in-house like food service, the people who do the sweets and stuff like that would bring in a couple of Schaefers of like, I don't know, chicken or vegetables and rice and that kind, that kind of thing. It wasn't bad, it wasn't, it was pretty good, to be honest. And then it went to like Jimmy John's catered half-cut sandwiches for a little while.
that sounds about right.
And then last year I'm pretty sure it was just, I'm trying to think of a time it wasn't Papa John's delivered pizzas. So that's the media spread, which it went from that at the beginning to nothing.
No wonder the media hates us in St. Louis.
I mean, like the Cardinals don't have a free media spread. You have to pay for your dinner, $16.50 a game, and then you get up in the press box. There's pretzels and hot dogs and popcorn that you're able to go snag. That's the spread, so to speak. The Blues is also paid.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Is that normal? That's not normal.
Everywhere I've been in MLS, there's been a media spread that's been free, but I don't know about Milwaukee was paid, the Brewers were paid. I remember that. Toronto Blue Jays weren't paid that they brought
That's
in.
a Canadian law, though.
Yeah, they had they had a nice kitchen spread, and then in the eighth inning, they brought in pizza, and in the ninth they had ice cream. Who else did I go see? The Royals were okay. That wasn't paid, or at least I didn't know it was. I might have just stolen from the Royals, to be honest.
So what?
Now that I'm thinking about it,
what does that tell us? That like what can we draw back to the fact that they just? I mean, is it just something that people forgot how to do at SLU? Like, I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that like the amount of media that are coming and like for as often as it is happening, I don't know if it's like a priority. Like
Yeah, I guess
the budget. I don't know the internal how the budget works. Like I just don't understand how that all functions, and like how much like I just don't know. Like I wish I had a better understanding of it. It seems like based on everything we talk about and everything that goes on is that like budget is a thing that is constantly looming over SLU in terms of operations, like constantly. It is staff, promotional, uh, media meal, for example, which I always think is kind of like it's nice. It's a nice thing to get, but I don't expect it. That's just my personal opinion. But like, it does seem like budget is always something that is looming over SLU in a way that like it for what SLU wants to be, perhaps isn't how they should be behaving. But I don't know.
Yeah, I guess to loop this back to the game day experience, and thank you, Carter. I've just been morbidly curious about that for a while.
Yeah.
But I'm like now 3/4 of this group that's on here. I'm out of town, so I only make it down for a few games every year. Most of the games I get to in college basketball now are at other schools, and you pick up on things. I think that kind of like Pete said, like it's just very apparent going down to SLU games that it's just not consistent from game to game. Like you don't know if you're getting their A production or their Tuesday night against LaSalle production. And it's not even about the opponent. It's just you don't know what games you're going to get that big time production value for, which when they do the stuff with the fire cannons and they have a full promo lineup at every 4-minute timeout and you get like a full band and also a DJ and like everything, that's great, but you never know when you're going to get it. And that's the part where it doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10 production every time. If it's 8 out of 10 every night instead of a 10 out of 10 every 4 games and the other games are like a 6 out of 10, I think that's better overall. If you're just consistently hitting a double instead of hitting a home run every 4 at bats, I'm going to just use as many analogies as possible. I think that overall in the long run, it's like, all right, we know what we're getting out of a SLU game. We're not getting the best experience in the world, but we're not getting a bad one either.
You know who this also matters a lot to is kids. My kids, when we go to a sporting event and there's something that they really seize on, like, oh, hey, when they run around and throw the balls, they love that. Well, wait, if they go to a game where there's like something that they did at the last game that they don't do at the next game, they like lose their minds because they're like, where is that? Where's that thing that I really liked before that I've been waiting for the whole game? Because they're not hanging on every play like we are. Kids love, like there's always like their thing, right? And I know that's not a concern for everybody, but like when you're bringing kids to a game, if there's a thing that they really enjoyed about it, I would hate to think that it's not going to happen next time. I know the halftime act is going to change and things like that, but there are other elements of the game that matter more to them and less to us that are still nice to have. For what it's worth, Zach, I am wondering, you've been complaining about it for a while. It's been a while since you've mentioned it, I think, because it's been a while since basketball season. But the bar that is in the concourse that is not open to the general public, is that something that is still going to be there this year?
Yeah, I know. I'm on mute. I was trying to make sure people didn't have to hear my voice all the time. I don't know. I would like to think they moved it, but I mean, they really like when SLU has a high priority, it's a really high priority. when it's not their highest priority, there's no in between. So like I would say it's going to still be there because the Billiken Club rules.
Yeah.
Can I ask a follow up to that bar? Because I've walked past it. I've been super intrigued in the times that I've come down from games, but obviously never going to get into it because it's Billiken Club, whatever. How do they verify that you're part of the Billiken Club? Like, what's preventing me from just walking in and being like, I want a drink?
That's
Like
a
a
good question. I
Stapo at
think
the
I think
table
members
outside of
know.
it.
But like, do they just have a list and they're checking you off? So if I know someone's name, I can be like, oh, I'm.
I think you do actually get a card.
You probably have something on your phone, right? Like do they have a would it be in your Billik? I don't know. I guess I
I,
haven't
I've
unlocked
just
that in
been
the
curious.
Billikens app.
I've been curious because I've been like, I don't see any reason why I can't walk in there. But
Yeah.
I'm
No, I mean
giving
that's
you
a
that homework assignment this season.
I, you know,
it's
I,
always tempting. You're like, oh, the line's shorter there. This
if
looks
I
nice.
if I make it down for a game this year, I will probably try it. But looking at the schedule, I don't think this is gonna be the first year in a long time that I do not get to a single home game. Like I'm probably going to the SIU game on the road, and I'm going to Loyola when they're up here because that's right up the road for me. But other than that, I'm not sure I'm going to make it to a single game at Chaffetz. I just not in the cards.
I'm hoping to make
Great.
one. I don't know when it's going to be yet. It might be in calendar year 2024, one of the A10 games. But yeah, I don't know yet because when I'm going to be home for Christmas, they're at NC State, so
Yeah.
I'm going to be missing them that time. Thinking about the concourse some more though. I feel like every other college arena I go to where they play on campus, there's just a lot more of their stuff, a lot more of their identity in the hallways. Like Dayton recently did that renovation to their arena, and when you walk through the hallways, there's just images everywhere. There's banners and photos from history and like huge blown up graphics and things like that. Xavier's got their Hall of Fame in one hallway in addition to all of the other big graphics. SIUC, they renovated their arena about 12 years ago, and it's way better there now when you walk around. When I walk around the Chaffetz concourse, and I know the arena is used for a lot of different things, but it's
That's the
still on our
problem, right?
campus. But it's still on our campus. It's still
right, but they
our
want it to be a multi venue, like a multi event venue, and that's kind of how it feels when you walk in, is that you don't know
Yeah,
where you're at.
but I think I think
I'm
that
not saying
it's
I'm not saying it
Well,
should be
I
that way.
went
I'm
to a
saying it is
Billy
that way.
Strings concert there, and I had no idea where I was.
so I I
Yeah, to be
think
clear,
that
I'm not saying it should be that way. I'm saying it is that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think that so like is a direct comparison to what Peter's saying. Like if you want to find SLU's trophy case, you have to walk off the main concourse. You make a right. It's on that hallway that leads downstairs to
I
the
hate
practice
that.
pavilion. Like it would not be that much work to put that trophy case essentially on wheels, wheel it out for SLU games when you're having a concert there, wheel it back, lock up the wheels. Is it ideal? No. Is it that hard to do? Also, no. The Bears do it at Soldier Field. I've literally seen it happen. Um,
But
my idea last year was still I would have a display case for SLU home games and do whatever you want with it otherwise. But I would have a display case of like the Billiken mascot costume through the years, which I know, Zach, you said that they probably don't own them, but that was my idea. Just be like, hey, have a brief history show.
Even if
This
it's a
is
fake one, even if it's fake,
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
recreation
recreation.
fact
and put some patina on it.
and like don't hide it from history. I mean, I know someone showed it to us once. There was like a female Billiken variant at one
Oh
point, which is
yeah, and there's a baby.
the creepiest thing you've ever seen in your life. I would
Oh
put
yeah,
that thing front and center because you know what that is? That's a photo op. That
That's
is
history.
Yeah.
yeah, it's history. Like fill those halls because if you walk on the man, there's side of Chaffetz that looks right at the highway. There's nothing there. I mean,
no,
there is nothing on that part of the concourse. You might as well be in an airport terminal. And
Right.
it's just
It
dead
feels like that.
space. Just fill it with something. I don't care what. Just it's your building. It's not like you're renting. So DePaul.
do we
DePaul is the
sign? We do own it.
what'd you
We
say?
lease out the management. Never mind. Go
No,
on.
but what I'm saying is we own the building. Like
Right.
As a direct comparison, DePaul, they rent their arena. It's owned by the city of Chicago, by the Illinois Sports Management Group. So I would get it if I'm walking around a concourse at Wintrust and it's there's not that much DePaul stuff. They have way more DePaul stuff on that concourse when I've gone to games there than we do at Chaffetz, a building that we own. And not just we're the primary tenant, because we are, but we own it. So we can do whatever we want with it.
But it's also like people aren't stupid. Like if you're going to see a non-SLU basketball event on SLU's campus and you see SLU stuff in the hallway, you're not going to be like offended. It's like if you see a concert at Soldier Field, you're not like, I'm here to see Taylor Swift, not the Bears. It's like you're in the Bears stadium. It's, you know, like people understand
they do
where
erase
they
a lot
are.
of the Bears stuff for that. But yes, your point.
I mean,
is,
you can hang stuff over that, right?
Yeah,
like you could
definitely.
Black
that's
like,
up to it. Just it just
well,
it doesn't matter.
Pipe
it's
and
fine.
drape.
People don't care. Like, oh, I'm here to see something that isn't SLU basketball. I don't want to see like this old photo of Easy Ed McCall. They're not going to get mad. Who cares?
Yeah, what like is a Mizzou fan going to come in here and like punch open a glass case and be like,
really funny?
Your trophy's invalid. No,
I would love it. Actually,
it'd be so funny. Though.
I would love it. It would be great theater.
Right.
It would ignite just an insane like.
Missouri man driven by rage of Lorenzo Romar punches out trophy case saying your titles are invalid, arrested, charged. It'd be a great story. I mean, like
it would. And you know what? All ties together. No PR is bad PR. No news. Whatever we said earlier. I don't know. Be a good story. Be like, oh, what's this place?
Dude,
you know what's like funny? Like probably one of the biggest like, internet hits of the last 10 years, or maybe might be more than 10 years now, for SLU basketball is when you search like SLU basketball, it's their bus getting stolen in St. that's St. Bonaventure. Like there is nothing they can do that'll be bad for in terms of getting this department back up into the or this athletic department, the whole institution, into better SEO at this point. Like anything is better than nothing.
That's again, we get back to the insane silence on everything that happens. I mean, you're hiding. You're like seriously, just get a bunch of replicas of the A10 women's soccer trophy and throw 5 of them up there. Like 5.
Those should litter the hallways of Chaffetz Arena. They should.
They really should. Like, what are we doing?
Oh, there's what is it? 12 college cups. They should 10. Be 10. They should. They should be littering the hallways.
Even if it's not the original trophy, like Zach said,
replicas.
Put them up there. Say, here you go. I mean, we have the most championships of. We have the most soccer titles of any NCAA men's soccer team. That's still true, correct?
We have the most NCAA Division I national championships.
Still true.
Yes, like I'd broadcast that everywhere. Just especially as a school that is doing really well in soccer on both sides.
Yeah,
it's gonna be in Louisville this year. Hopefully, I can go down and see a game there. One of our teams make it to Louisville this year. That'd be great.
Will baseball get a press box this year?
No.
Doubtful.
Shit.
Listen, if we all pool our money, we can do this. Just raise
the
funds.
Imagine putting slut.
The SLU Memorial Press Box. That's right, Memorial.
In memoriam of these episodes after this one, because
exactly.
So if we're talking facilities, what's your order of priority for all of the other sports? You know, I think basketball's taken care of. What would your capital, if you had, you know, a nice big fat capital budget, what's the order you're going in for all of the other sports facilities on campus?
I'm going to do a cop-out answer first before I answer your real question. I would knock down Grand Forest and build new athlete housing. I think that's more.
Wait, where did we bring that up last time?
We did.
I think we did.
We did, and we can just remind quickly. I think that athlete housing, like you can't have specific athlete housing. I think it has to be mixed, like with the general student population,
which is why it's apartments. It's not dorms.
Yeah, but like 10% of GFO is non-athletes. At least when I went there, it was majority athlete housing.
Yeah, so I think right. So yeah, right. Better housing, absolutely.
Definitely.
Right
Yeah, but I think if you were going in true order of facilities improvements, I mean, soccer just got that brand new building adjacent to
Yeah,
Herman.
they're
I
set. Well, I mean,
yeah.
they're not set. I have thoughts, but
I
it's
would
not my
do
priority list.
I would I would probably fill out the bowl for soccer, but I don't think that's like high priority. I would take care of baseball. I would try and look at the feasibility of bringing like tennis and field hockey on campus. Track and field definitely need some work because are they still at that med campus track,
Mhm.
Yes.
which is
I feel like there's something there where you could build a track and field / field hockey facility.
Yeah.
That
There's something there.
Yeah,
I've
for sure.
heard I've heard rumors.
Oh, rumblings,
Rumbling.
whispers.
The streets are talking.
Ooh,
But I think also with
the Slut Memorial Field Hockey Center.
Yes.
with the Grand
I love it.
Forest with the Grand Forest thing, you could reduce the footprint of that, right? Because like the
Oh,
Grand
definitely.
Forest,
Build
those little
up.
buildings,
Yeah.
yeah. So build it more up and then use the extra space for tennis.
But okay, but here, do you want, if you go up, you take away Chaffetz from the skyline.
What do you mean?
If you go like if you build it
Not
as
really.
at the same height level as the village apartments, which are 3 stories, I don't think you
They
ruin.
oh, they're two. I guess you could go three. Yeah.
It's
I don't
also
think
this
you
because
ruin that
every one of
much.
those Grand Forest buildings is 4 units, right? And they're all spaced out.
That I
I
don't know.
think they are.
Yeah, they're
so
pretty
like
spaced out. Yeah.
they're very like you could really
Well, they have that
consolidate
one
that footprint.
space. They have that one space in the like they almost have like a quad in between
Yeah,
their
like
buildings where
courtyard.
it's like yeah, they have like a big courtyard. You can reduce that footprint tremendously. I mean, make
Yes.
that courtyard a fourth of the size and you can just cram three uh groups of four into there. I mean, I don't know. I think it's an eyesore to begin with. I think it just looks terrible. Like when you're
Yeah.
walking into Chaffetz and you see that, you're like, this does not look good.
It looks like a
'Cause
campground.
It does
It
have an
kind
odd
of,
vibe, does it? Like
yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
It just doesn't. When you look at all the new capital projects that they've had around SLU, they all fit a singular building identity. Like it's all similar architecture, similar that red brick design, and then it just sticks out like a sore thumb. You're like, that is old. That is really old and built from a different era. But I don't know. So yeah, I would. But to answer your question earnestly, I would baseball, softball. I would bring their facilities up to snuff, just in terms of seating, press box, and then I would look to bring the off-campus sports on campus, and then soccer because I think soccer is in the second best spot compared to basketball.
I agree.
Yeah, I think a baseball softball complex where they get, they're because those fields are right next to each other. There might be some ability to share a little bit of infrastructure, but I think if they need press boxes, they need something more permanent in terms of bleachers. They need indoor batting cages, that they can share. They need better locker rooms. Right there, and then you gotta take better care of the field surface and make sure your wall is not just a fence. I know that's a few $1,000,000, but it's not a new arena, right? It's not a new stadium.
But I think
that's priority number one.
Didn't we bring up, maybe it was the last episode or last year, with some of these instances in the non-revenue sports, a little goes a long way. So
exactly,
a couple million in baseball goes way further than a couple million in basketball. That's just that's the simple truth of this, that a lot of schools in the Midwest, because I don't even really compare us to the A10 because of how different East Coast baseball is.
I think we're better. We're in a much better position here in St. Louis than any of those schools are.
Some of them are completely landlocked. Like they've got no room to do anything. Yeah.
And I think that, when you compare to other Midwest facilities, I think that we have a lot of ground to make up. But we have the land to do it. That's the thing. It's not like we're using every inch allocated.
How prohibitive is that walkway going from the garage to Chaffetz to combining that infrastructure, because you could conceivably, if you felt like paving over that, you could combine, you could put a softball locker room. You basically,
Oh, I had this thought a little while ago that what if you built like a commuter bridge from the parking structure to um like to Chaffetz, but that takes away from whatever you were what the idea you were saying, which was like you could build over the pave. Like I think I'd have a hard time thinking you could just like build a straight bridge from like the top floor of um the garage all the way over to the Chaffetz like entrance.
ah,
But like that is a way you can kind of free up some land underneath for things like tennis or um
well, no,
other facilities. But yeah,
I,
you,
Well, so
you
I
couldn't have a
think
baseball field with a big bridge over top of it. Like that doesn't exactly
I
work.
think
yeah,
you
well,
would just
no, yeah,
like I think instead, so right now, right, you go out the door of the parking garage and you walk through that path you're talking about. I think if you could build a path, like they have all that green space behind the softball field. Worst
Yeah,
case scenario, if you really needed that space between the fields, you could just build a new path that runs past
around
the
that way.
softball outfield
Hmm.
and just have it direct that way, which leads you closer to the main gate of Chaffetz anyways. If you, it's kind of hard
yeah.
to
You're no, I see what
figure
you're
out what I'm
saying.
saying, but like, and granted, then you'd be giving up some green space, but I think that there probably is a revamp that you could do to that part of the athletics complex that would better allocate space for baseball and softball. And if you have to make a new walking path to get to Chaffetz, I think that's a pretty easy compromise that you have to make.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like you could conceivably connect baseball, softball there, but I always thought you could connect soccer and baseball, and also better service the people that sit on the other side of the soccer stadium, so they don't have to, like, you don't have to keep putting up a concession stand every time you have a big crowd.
I will say, like based on the rumbling, the whispers, the reading of the tea leaves. I based on my reading of the tea leaves, rumbles and whispers, I think it's not totally out of the question that we see a pretty major um, addition or renovation to uh, what is currently known as Herman Field in the near future.
I've heard more than rumblings actually.
That's yeah, like I think we could see that pretty in the near future, and I can see a world in which in the very near future that is no longer called Herman Field either,
The dumbest idea I have for campus
or Herman
for the
Stadium, excuse me,
for yeah, well, Herman Stadium.
excuse me.
My dumbest idea is to put a an alumni area on top of the locker rooms on that roof.
Oh, okay, yeah, we've talked about this. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like,
I
and
don't know
have
if that's
like
on the
bar
pod, but yeah,
service or whatever.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Call it
yeah.
like your soccer suite or
Billiken Club.
something. Yeah, who cares? I
Billiken
would.
Soccer Club, I think is what.
So the one thing I think we missed out on that I have more experience with now with soccer is that I was really hopeful at the time, and it doesn't seem like this is the pathway they're going to go, is that City SC, St. Louis City SC, was going to help utilize or help in off season because the MLS Next Pro plays their off season during SLU's off season and help with some, promote using SLU as their home facility for their MLS Next Pro team. It seems as though, for the most part, they're very pleased with using TQL Stadium, with using City Park right now for that. But here in Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati 2 uses Scudamore Field at Northern Kentucky University as their primary home grounds for the MLS Next Pro side. And it's we've already done, like as a club, FC Cincinnati have already done some assisted with some pretty significant renovations to Scudamore Field, with more on the way, knowing that we're going to use that place for a little while for that club. So I was kind of hoping that City SC was going to do something similar. It appears they're not going to.
It
And I
still
think that's a
could.
pretty they could, but it seems like they're pretty content with playing those games out of City Park
Interesting.
for the next pro. And so they still could, hypothetically, they have their own training grounds, they have their own this, they have their own that. So like that's good on them. But it would be a really great partnership to have, is if you can get some of those MLS dollars to come over and help out with renovating that building and making it put extending the bowl, making it a full facility, modernizing the press box. There's some things that could be done that aren't necessarily needed, but that would have been a really good partner to have if you could have made that work.
I keep going back to, so the season opener that the women played against BYU, like, let me qualify this. I love Herman. I think Herman is like a top class.
It's really, really good
college soccer facility. I mean, honestly, soccer facility in general, it's really good. I loved
it's better than Scudamore here.
I loved the way that BYU filled out their end zone's not the right word, but the part of space that's dead at Herman, BYU did like a smaller seating section, but right behind the goal, and it looked awesome. Now, granted, BYU in general it's in the mountains and it's very TV oriented, but I've been thinking about that since SLU played there back in August. Like, you could do this so easily at Herman, and I know that, was it last year or 2 years ago when they drew that like record crowd for the men, where they had people sitting all around just on that little hill. But I was like, you can make this more legit. It doesn't need to be seats. It could be a standing section. It can be whatever you want it to be. Your behind goal thing could be like your party zone, where it is your alumni thing and maybe not on top of the locker room, but it's something like that. But I think that's kind of the final piece for Herman. Like, how do we fill out that dead space? Because it's a great venue. I mean,
I think that's coming too. I think that's part of
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, that nice video board that BYU had. I hope that's in the cards as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we discuss you said the word and it raised alarm bells in my head. The distinct lack of hills in good positions around SLU stadiums is just, it's very sad. Like,
need some hills to sit on. That's part of the deal.
like this.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
The hill at the end of the soccer stadium is not useful for half of it. Like, I don't know. And then baseball, I would love a hill out in the field. Like, there's the hill up by the duck pond, but
Can they build a hill?
You're way far away.
Yeah. Well, I'll go a step further. I mean, just put the old Minute Maid Park hill in center field. Make a unique baseball stadium.
I love it. I'm here for it. No. Right field.
Oh God.
And it starts deeper as you go out to center. So like, yeah,
you got to go down and then up.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
well,
No.
That's how it gets innovated. It's a valley, not a
trench.
Hill.
It's a trench in left center field.
In case of tornadoes, guys.
Some kid would tear his ACL and just
immediately
$100 million
like
lawsuit.
Game one. Yes.
Oh my God, that would be great. Do we know what happened with the bricks, Pete?
So I
Do we ever have an update on that?
So I never got word on where our brick is, the Midtown Madness podcast brick. I
in Chris May's office.
Yeah. So
with my cutout that they took off they had me underneath the hoop and then they took me away. So after the first game.
So my wife bought me a brick as a gift, not knowing that I had also purchased a Midtown Madness one. So she got one.
Hers also Midtown Madness?
No, hers has like my name and it says like Billiken for life or something. It's really nice. But we got an email and a letter saying exactly where it was. So like I have a map that I can open and like it's like, oh, it's on this part of the S kind of thing. Like it tells you like roughly what zone you're in. But I never got that for Midtown Madness, and I don't know that that's an accident. Are you
putting your tinfoil hat on?
I don't know, Zach. I don't know. I'm just, hey, we paid our money, man. I mean, let's. I'm going to be out there. Maybe we should just say like, hey, first person to find it.
Yes,
I know we do a giveaway or something for the podcast.
2 men in a garden. Where you at?
That's right. Whoever can tell us where that brick is, get some salsa. We'll do that on our next regular episode, maybe. But yeah, I want to know because when I do come back in town, I want to find it. Now that I know it's out there, or I think it's out there anyway. Maybe they'll be like, it's coming next year. You didn't make it into this one in time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for sure.
Uh, West Pine, you talked about marketing and the women's basketball program being marketed. Did we get into this last time?
A little bit.
It's
Just
it's
that they
hard
were
for me to
doing a
know.
better job on social media.
It's hard for me to know what we got into or not because we also have that text group, and it's very easy for me to confuse what we texted about and
What do you
talked
think
about.
I've been doing here for the last hour and 45 minutes? I've been as
Yeah,
confused as any of you guys.
yeah. I yeah, I think we covered it already. No need to rehash, but
Uh,
they haven't
what?
changed since we recorded the last episode. They're marketing the hell out of the women, which they should because as we said earlier, Rebecca Tillett walked in and did in 1 year what no other coach had ever done in the history of this program. So span 1,000, and I would market that to no end.
How much of an impending threat do you think Lindenwood University is?
Like right now?
I mean, I think they are doing everything right that SLU's doing wrong.
I don't know about that, but I don't think they're doing like I don't know if they're doing anything wrong. I just don't know if they're like
I think they are
actually making
majorly. I
inroads.
think they're. I think they're the ambition from Lindenwood is apparent, and the lack of a bit ambition, I think, is
Some of
apparent
that's
with
natural.
SLU.
I mean, like they just made the move up to D1 from D2.
Yeah.
You can't do that and then half-ass it immediately, right? Like they have the momentum of having done that. They have to make the bigger commitment financially and otherwise to make the jump up into D1. And what I've noticed is a lot of those schools that have made the jump more recently are way better, at least in the that short term, than a lot of the programs who have been in D1 for a while. Like there are a lot of schools.
Bellarmine, St. Thomas, just
Bellarmine,
up.
St. Thomas are good examples.
Yeah.
Merrimack up in the NEC
Yeah.
won that conference almost immediately. How many
Yep.
times have you heard recently they won their conference and they're not allowed to go to the NCAA tournament? You've heard it a lot. Bellarmine, Merrimack, there've been a couple
Yep.
others as well. Like
Yep.
they have all the momentum in the world and they're coming into the lowest conferences in some cases, the most winnable conferences with a lot of teams that just haven't really made moves in a long time. I look at some of the like I don't know, Presbyterian College is in D1. When's the last time you've ever heard their name in any context whatsoever? Or like some of the other schools that were in that Big South with Longwood
Yeah.
are just like they have some of the smallest gyms in D1. They never really do anything. So it's a those Lindenwoods and the others that make the jump are really primed. You know, Southern Indiana has great facilities. Like they were way out of the league for D2. Southern Indiana's got great facilities. They were a D2 powerhouse. They've made the move up to D1 as they should have. They're going to be better in the Ohio Valley than some of those other schools in that league. So I don't take everything they're doing as a threat to SLU. I just take it as like that's kind of what they need to do. But I think at the end of the day, they're still a couple generations away from shedding the sort of St. Charles commuter school kind of image
Yeah.
that they've had for a long time. So I think for them, a lot of they're going to need a couple of their programs to pop, but they're also going to do they're going to need to recruit nationally a little bit more, and they're going to be able to do that as a D1 program. But if they want to change their image and really become a little more big time, they've got to do things like that.
It's the thing about like what is Lindenwood actually competing with SLU, and I think the point you're making, Zach, is that it's like, is Lindenwood going to become the city of St. Louis's institution? Like, I don't think that's anywhere close.
Oh,
Like,
I don't even think they could.
but that's the only thing they can compete with, right? Like, that's
Yeah,
the only
I
thing they
guess
can
the
compete with us
Metro,
on. It's like, who does the
well,
Metro care more about? Is
yeah,
kind of like the argument
yeah.
to be made,
It'd
and I
be
don't
tough.
think
I
they're
think
anywhere
it's going to be
close.
tough. It'd be incredibly tough for Lindenwood. It'd be tougher for Lindenwood, even all things being equal. Say both of them come into Division 1 now, right? I think it would be tougher for Lindenwood to grab city fans or in St. Louis County fans than it would be for St. Louis to capture St. Louis City and County fans and St. Charles fans.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that there are a lot. I think I've made this point before. Like 300 something D1 teams is too many, right?
Yes.
There are way too many D1 teams. It's absurd.
I think it's 363 right now. 362.
It's
362.
It's insane. And the problem is that like some of the schools who are thinking about going down are all the ones who are like, why are you the one? Like you're like today the news that like Bradley's faculty wants to make a request
which
to do a
has a zero shot of happening,
which is not happening. But the fact that the faculty's asking for it is bizarre. But now that's bad PR because it's in the news that Bradley wants to go. Like the headline was
yeah,
worse
it's not good publicity.
But like there's so many schools that shouldn't exist in D1, and Lindenwood probably deserves to be D1 because they have the ambition to do so. But that so that puts them in the if we restricted D1 to like 200 schools, sure, there are probably 150 schools out there that have absolutely no ambition when you look down the chart. I don't think SLU is near that threshold. I don't think, and so like when it says like is Lindenwood chasing SLU? No, but they've made up a lot of ground in D1 because they're passing people who aren't even racing, right? Like that would be my
that's right. That's a good way of putting it.
Like they're rushing past people who don't care, and it's like, oh wow, look how far they're running.
I think too, Lindenwood has more aspiration on the football end of things than basketball. Not saying they don't care about basketball, but I think that football, and they have hockey too, I think, right?
They do.
They will.
Yes, they do.
They should be able to become powered hockey.
Hockey is one of those sports that like you want to talk a little going a long way. Hockey, a couple $1,000,000 goes very far.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some schools that are nationally relevant in hockey that are nothing in any other sport.
St. Cloud State.
Yeah.
Minot State?
A lot of it is
the Miners.
Yeah.
No, that's where North Dakota State is.
Yeah.
That's no North. Is that the
Minot, North Dakota? One of the schools is in Fargo, one's in Minot. The North Dakota State.
I thought North Dakota State was
no.
But I don't know.
Quinnipiac.
It doesn't really matter, but like
no, we're sticking on this.
So, well, while you look that up, so like to build off this Lindenwood thing, like I agree. I don't think Lindenwood is like a threat because I don't think that people are going to fully get behind one. Here, let me take a step back. Like we said last episode, SLU faces an uphill battle in a state that is so dominated by Mizzou, in a city where a lot of Mizzou alum live. So you're kind of competing for that second wave of fan. That's not a SLU graduate. You're competing against U of I, SIU, some Indiana schools, Chicago, like whatever. You're Kansas. You're competing against that cluster of schools. In that group, I think that people are more likely to latch on to SLU than they are to Lindenwood. That being said, if Lindenwood is going to do the things that new D1 schools do and put a lot of money and effort into marketing, facilities, recruiting, all that stuff, I think that you have to treat them as a threat until they aren't. Even if they really are not a threat to your fan base accumulation, I think you have to operate that way. And I don't think it's a bad idea to say, all right, this school is they're trying, and maybe we're not as much. This is very anecdotal, but I have a good buddy who is an SIUE alum. In advance of the Bronze Boot game, or both, well, I know the female one isn't the Bronze Boot, but the doubleheader at City Park between SLU and SIUE, he said they received, like, their alumni group sent them an email every day for a month promoting that game. And,
holy shit.
And, like, SLU didn't publicize that much.
Nearly as much.
Like, I don't even know the scope of it, but, like, that's another thing. SIUE is trying to get more of a foothold in the St. Louis area. They're trying. Whether or not it works, I don't know, but you got to look in the mirror and say, all right, are we putting the same amount of effort in? I don't think the answer is yes, but they got to do some examination.
Yeah, I think. Well, the other thing is SIUE is still a fairly recent D1.
Rejoin. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they were. I'm trying to find the year right now.
It was
Um,
like, what was it? I was just
uh,
looking this up the other day because I was looking for Kevin Kalish's history.
yeah, shoot, I can't find it. D2. So they went D1 independent in 2008. And then
That's still recent. Yeah.
they were in the Ohio Valley in 2010. Right. So I knew it was after I graduated SLU in 2005. But there you go. I mean, they're still new to Division One in the last 15 years. And so there's still some of that, like there are definitely people within that athletic department who remember being Division Two, right? And there's
Mhm.
still going to be that we need to prove ourselves, and they haven't been a great basketball program for the most part at the D1 level. All jokes about last year's game
Yeah.
aside, at SLU, one of the worst games I've ever seen in person.
What former basketball coach at St. Louis University went to Minot State?
Great
Oh God,
question.
I have no idea.
Are you looking it up now? Do
No,
you
I
have it
know
up?
it. I know it.
Minot State
That's what I
basketball.
did. Yeah, that
Former men's basketball coach,
yes. No, doesn't have to be head.
currently not with the program.
Currently not with the program.
The Minot State.
No clue.
All right.
Did like Ray Giacoletti go to Minot State? Let's go. Let's go.
He got it.
Let's go. I was gonna say because
That's an
I also
insane pull.
I also had Minot State, the Beavers men's hockey program up. They are in fact in Minot, North Dakota. They beat the Lindenwood Lions 9-5 in the 2013 ACHA National Championship. So we can bring that all
Lindenwood
for a
hockey's playing. I think Michigan's coming to town.
So yeah, so they were in the ACHA, which is not NCAA. So now that they've made the jump to D1, they can play those games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was wrong. University of North Dakota is in Grand Forks,
I was gonna
and
say
Fargo is where North Dakota State is. So yeah, Minot State's
Mm,
its own thing. I thought one of them was in Minot. Anyway,
same thing. Yeah. But like you look at when it comes to like hockey, you look at the top 25 and it's like littered with just like Quinnipiac, not doing anything in anything else. Minnesota Duluth, probably not D1
not
in another
D1 and anything else. Colorado
college.
the
Yeah.
Alaska schools.
Merrimack, UMass Lowell, RIT. Don't know what that is at
That's
all.
Rochester. The other two are D1, but they're in the NEC. They're small.
Augustana,
Augustana's in Illinois.
St.
Right.
Cloud, Bemidji State.
Bemidji State. Fun
Those are
fact
both
about
Minnesota.
Is Miami like the one in Cincinnati, like near Cincinnati? Like,
yeah, Miami,
That's the one
Ohio.
in
Miami,
Ohio.
Ohio. Yeah.
They have a
Yeah.
really nice arena, by the way.
They
Oh,
sneaky
make a trip out. I live out
Yeah.
there.
they're sneaky like one of the wealthiest schools in the Midwest. They have a lot of capital.
Well,
behind them.
all the donations they thought they were sending to Miami University. Bemidji State is where the triplets that played the main baby and baby geniuses went to college. Don't ask me how I know that. And I know they made up a single line on the hockey team.
That's really funny.
Yeah, they all played Division I hockey on the same line.
Well, there you
so, like,
have it.
There you have it.
A
Yeah.
good sign that we need to get back to SLU.
Yes, we do. Dude.
My battery is not going to last forever.
Oh my God! Bring your charger, Carter.
Hey, can we?
Oh
can we
wait, hold
talk
on.
about-
Speaking of Lindenwood though, Rammer and Earl working their games. Does that bother anyone else?
This might be the
they're
thing that
grads,
bothers.
right?
So that's the thing I was just going to say is that like if there's something to be worried about competitiveness wise, it's the fact that Lindenwood has a ton of prominent media graduates every year, and in the same way that Mizzou Journalism School kind of
Did Frank go there too?
yes, and
By the way, weird that
so
Frank
did Dan
has not
McLaughlin at the
been,
time.
hyping up this team.
It's not weird at all, Zach.
Mm.
When we get into talking about this year, which I thought we were doing tonight.
Yeah, we can do. Okay, I'll get into it.
It's not weird at all. Carter, finish your thought. But
the thought being is that like they have a lot of
Yeah.
prominent media members. So does Mizzou. There's a reason Mizzou gets so much like prominent media attention. There's a reason Northwestern gets a lot of prominent. There's reason Syracuse gets a lot of media attention. Arizona State, like they have a lot of people who go to school there
Porn
who end
stars?
up being. they have a lot of people who end up being media members because they produce a lot of media
Oh,
members.
you said
And so
Arizona State.
Lindenwood can have a lot of prominent voices in town talking about them, and not in the way they would talk about St. Louis University. Like, it says something about like the fact that one of the most prominent media members in St. Louis up until like very recently was me. Like, that's a very like that's an indictment on the media presence that SLU has. Like, that's not good. It should not be me.
We currently have like 1.5 media cheerleaders. One of them is Matt Rocchio. Shout out Rock. He has like no real SLU ties at all. But he is like an advocate of SLU basketball. He'd be a good guest to have on some point. And he's then the other is smart. The other is half Frank, and I say half because he is all aboard the Mizzou bandwagon, which I get it. Drives, clicks, listens, whatever. But I think Frank's big time SLU allegiance, with him being buddies with Travis, has run its course.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, today I saw he retweeted his show schedule, and Dennis Gates was on, and for tomorrow, Travis is not on. So there's going to be no Travis radio spot the week before the season tips off, which I don't think has happened in 5 years, at least. There's very little promo for this game on Monday.
Is this how people feel when I say things that nobody else knows what I'm talking about? But like West Pine's like, yeah, this will be the first time in 5 years Travis hasn't done Frank's show.
I'm pulling that out of my pocket. I don't know if that's 100% true. It's at least the last 3 years. I'm extrapolating to 5, but
I think it's a good extrapolation.
I'm like very confident that Travis has had a radio spot on, whether it's Frank on his radio program or NBC on the whatever one Frank is on. Like, I'm pretty sure that he's had one the week before. And has anyone with SLU had a radio spot this week? May hasn't been on. Ford hasn't been on. An assistant like Corey Tate hasn't been on. I
haven't seen anyone.
I'm telling you, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm just reading things as they are. They are not marketing this team, and when they don't do that, they're not good.
I still don't get it though. Yeah, so let's finish then with this season. Like what do we think we're gonna see Monday night? What do we think we're gonna see this season? Because like, if they're not marketing this team, they're not going to sell tickets, and you need to sell tickets. And regardless of how good or bad the team is, you need as many people to buy tickets as possible. So I don't really understand the strategy of hiding them.
So I won't reveal my method because I kind of want to keep this a secret, how I know this. But there's a way to backdoor Ticketmaster's system to see exactly how many tickets are available for an event. As of this afternoon, we're recording on Thursday, November 2nd. I don't know if this is going to come out before or after the opener.
Probably after.
That's fine. As of this time, 4 days before the season tips off, there were 5,792 tickets available. That is over half of the ticket allotment for Chaifetz Arena for Monday night's game. And that does not include tickets that are for sale in the secondary market. We are going to see a very empty Chaifetz to kick off this season. And you know what? Even if you think this team's going to be bad, you got to market the team. You got to do it. You cannot throw your hands up and say, well, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have every intention that this is going to be a really good team. They're going to win 25 games and be in a tournament mix. Maybe they think that. I'm just saying, from how they market this team, I don't get that impression, because there's going to be a lot of empty seats. They're probably going to beat Southern Indiana, but look, they might not have a front court. Who knows what's going to happen? This team, I don't know how good this team's going to be. And not in like they'll win 18 games. Like, this could be a very bad team.
Could be. Yep.
So I had weeks ago settled on, I'm just happy to watch some basketball. I like the kids. I like the assistant coaches, and the head coach, has been on our show, and is like, I can root for all of these people. And just watch and be happy, and just without the burden of expectations. I keep saying that, but without the burden of expectations, just watch the season and enjoy it. But the fact that we have 4 bigs who we have no idea what their status is infuriating to me. And I know the NCAA is log jammed and screwing everybody over right now. I know that's happening. But it's still that is what's driving me insane. If I knew we had a full team and could just play, I would really be at peace and just let the season wash over me. And yes, I would get into all the ins and outs of it, but I wouldn't be all that upset about results. But the fact that we have no idea how many of those 4 players are going to be eligible, for how long, any of that kind of stuff drives me insane. And that's really hampering my ability to just enjoy this season.
You don't have a basketball team. It's kind of like like you wanted, like Pete, what you were saying was like you wanted to watch a basketball team play, and like without the burden of expectations, you could sit back and watch a basketball team play basketball, and you'd be pleased, you'd be okay with that, or find peace in that to some degree. Right. And what's happened is there's not a basketball team to be playing, right? Like like you have 4 positions taking the court, and there's somehow one missing, and so it's impossible to judge what you're watching as basketball, because it's like you're missing a core element of what they're trying to do. And so it comes back to like it's the full circle part of the conversation, is that like, what do you grade Travis Ford on this year? Because the team he's going to run out there in a week or whatever this airs last night isn't a basketball team, and they could very well win night 1 because they're playing like they're playing whoever, and they could win. But then you get into teams who are any good, and it's the more challenging part of your schedule, and it's like, this isn't a team. Like there's nothing here. Like there's talent in who's available, but there's not a team to be taking the court.
What frustrates me too, 2 things. One, looping back to before, is that there's this Fort Knox of information within the athletic department and basketball program. Like, the only person that has asked a question on these guys' status is Stu, and it seems like there has not been an update given in weeks. Just nope, these guys are waiting clearance. We have no timeline, whatever. Like, that is maddening to do, because you're right, Carter. On opening night, you should beat Southern Indiana. They are 17-point favorites per Vegas. Will they win by 17? No shot in hell. If no, I won't go. Who knows? They won't. They will not win without a front court. And
put their bets in.
That's what I'm literally going to do right now.
As we record, this is 4 days away.
Yes,
just so people know where we are. This is we're talking 4 days. From Southern Indiana, 2 weeks from when we play Wyoming.
And like, they can't even get an answer on the record. Like, when did you file the paperwork? How long have you known this was going to be an issue?
And those questions. And if the NCAA is screwing you over and taking forever, tell us, put out there when you filed it.
Yeah.
Because what do you have to lose by doing that? What do you have to lose by putting your cards on the table and saying, look, on July 15th, we filed this. And clearly the NCAA has reviewed some of their amateurism stuff, because Georgie Kirkic, he's eligible, and he was in the same position as Magassa and Van Bussel.
And he committed later. Yeah,
he committed like July 4th. Yeah, it was actually July 4th. I remember that. Like, it's just clearly something, I don't know what, but something is holding up your 2 other outstanding international waiver cases or eligibility cases. Because if a guy that committed after them is eligible and has no concerns, that shows there's no way they just pulled that one off the top of the pile. You said, we have 3 of these, and they just got to that one first. That's not the case. And I didn't even realize that till that was coming out of my mouth. That's fishy. And like, the other thing that is maddening about this opening week is like, all right, you should beat Southern Indiana. Your second game is something that I've hated that they've done for the past few years. They're playing a non-D1.
Yeah.
We're going to learn nothing from that game. Like,
yeah.
And It's not hard to get a low major to come in for a bye game. It's not. You could have there are other dates on your schedule you could have use them as a tune up the week before you go to Myrtle. Like or a few days before you go to Myrtle. Like there's no reason you should be playing a non D1 in the regular season. There just isn't.
Having 3 games in a week, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, couldn't have been the plan, right? I mean,
it wasn't. There's no way.
So the fact that we're playing a lower division team between a Monday and Saturday game says a lot to me.
Yeah,
things they got caught somewhere. They probably
exactly.
Yeah.
They only play 5 games in the entire month of December. Like
that's right.
And I get that they give guys time off around Christmas. Completely get that. Give guys some family time. Let them recharge. You're telling me you couldn't get a single game in those windows because they have like 6 or 7 days between one of their games. You couldn't find a single game?
They have a full week between Hofstra and Louisiana Tech. Yeah. And then they have, they play December 20th at NC State and then don't start the conference until January 3rd. So that's
there's usually a New Year's Eve game that should be played.
Right. So there's 2 full weeks right there. So you've got a 1 week break followed by a 2 week break. The other games, you've got 3 or 4 days in between all of those. Pretty standard, but yeah, that's a very small amount of basketball in December.
Playing like 2 D1s, including Southern Indiana and Illinois State, before going to Myrtle, just means you have literally no idea what team you have before you show up and play like
correct
your first two decent teams.
And Indiana State was bad last year. Southern Indiana, we just said, is a recent
Illinois State. Excuse me. Yeah.
What did I say? Yeah, Illinois State. It was bad last year. And then Southern Indiana's a very recent D1 edition, as we just said. And even if that means they're throwing money at it and they've got momentum and everything, it's still a big jump and the team should beat.
Someone pointed out in our comments today, and I don't know how good this guy is, but they have a 6'9" transfer from UConn who didn't play at UConn much. Southern Indiana. So their starting center is a 6'9" transfer from UConn, the team that just won the national title. Will this person be any good? I have no idea. Did they practice against guys that won a title in practice? Yes, they did. Will we have anyone playing over 6'5"? Probably not.
No.
Yareen Hassan. I don't know how to say his name.
Sure.
He's
brother.
He's from Israel. He's 6'10", 200.
Oh, fuck.
So we don't have someone who could guard him. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, and he was going against Adama Sonogo in practice, who would eat our entire starting five's lunch. Like, that's the kind of guy he played against when practicing at UConn.
You're inspiring.
And then I'm also seeing 6'10", 6'11". Look, I don't know if these guys are walk-ons or what, but no, well, he's definitely not. Tennessee Tech transfer, 6'11", 235. Are they any good?
Sick.
No idea. Oh, Kyron Powell. I know who he is. He transferred from Houston. 6'8", 210.
Oh,
Nick Hiddle transferred from Indiana State. 6'10", 245. So at the very least,
we're gonna get eaten.
We are going
to eat me.
We're gonna lose this game.
We have 4 days to figure out if we're gonna have anyone who can guard those guys.
Oh my god!
Man, this stinks that this is gonna release after the game, but like, how
we've said it for posterity.
Is it? Let's just release it tomorrow.
How bad will it be if they lose opening night?
Well, if I'm Southern Indiana, I have a pretty clear game plan.
366.
When's the last time they lost an opening night?
355.
Yeah, but Carter,
they're going to be better.
The thing is,
that's a lot of big transfers.
Who cares? It doesn't matter. That's the number that shows up right now.
No, but
it's
Carter,
a bad vibe
because they have. Yeah, but also, like, I don't think our Ken Pom number is accurate at all. Like, if I'm looking at the SLU roster, this is not the 115th best team in the nation. It's not.
I agree with you.
Now without bigs.
I don't disagree with you.
You know what my hot take is? Even with bigs, I don't think this is.
I actually think this is. I think with bigs, this team's actually decent. I really do.
Okay, so that's a take. Explain that. Explain that.
You have the benefit of you've seen them play in person.
The guards look nice.
Stream your exhibition games, please.
Yeah,
stop. For the love of God.
Let's get off of this individual game and let's get on to like this stream. Like, what are you doing?
Sorry, to be clear, the last time SLU lost opening night was in Travis's first year was Ball State.
Ball State.
Oh, I was gonna guess Ball State. I was at that
Well,
game.
Ball State was
I was
the
hammered.
game, the Cruise game. It was the last year of Cruise, and or maybe it was the first year of Cruise full, and I bet the Billikens, and I was not happy.
The first year of full cruise, because that was my freshman year at SLU. I remember going to that game, and it was the only packed student section the entire year. And there were like juniors and seniors behind me, and they were just like, "Who the hell are all these guys?" Like everyone graduated. They're like, I don't know who any of these people are. And I thought Malik Yarbrough was going to be like that dude.
Yeah.
Him and DeVell Roby, I was like, man, these guys are good.
That 2017 team beat SIUE on the exact same date that they lost to them last year. December 21st. Carter. Can you name the starting five for that team?
Was it 2016-17 or 17-18?
17. It appears.
Is that Ford's first year? Or Cruz's last?
Ford's first year.
Yeah, that would have
been. It would have been. Let's see. Mike Crawford.
Correct.
DeVell.
DeVell Roby.
Yep.
Reggie.
Yep.
Miles Reynolds.
John Manning.
No to both.
Oh, Reynolds was the sixth man.
Reynolds wasn't.
He never played for Ford.
Reynolds didn't play in this game.
Neither did Manning.
The bench is Newfield, Gilman, Johnson, Hines, and Moore.
Oh, Matt Newfield. Oh my God, he was so bad.
He played 8 minutes.
Jolly. No, Jolly was left.
Dude, it's 6 of 1 half.
One of these guys won a conference tournament.
Oh. Wait, what?
Of the two you're missing, one of them won the conference tournament. No, won the conference tournament.
Oh no! It was
Remican was gone.
This is a fun game.
His first year.
Not Rashad Anthony.
No, he was the second year Ford. It wasn't Fred because Fred was 2 years after. It wasn't Bess. It wasn't Foreman.
Could have been Bess.
No, Bess didn't play that first year. He played the second year. Shoot.
I'll give you one.
Aaron Hines?
He was on the bench.
Yeah. So we had a point.
So Jermaine Bishop started at the 4, according to this.
Jermaine.
He was like 6'2".
Oh, was it Jalen Johnson?
It was Elliot Welmer.
Wait,
Welmer was hurt though. That doesn't.
Elliot Welmer started. He had 26 minutes.
He was hurt for the tournament though.
He had 7 points. Yes, but he was on that team.
Jalen Johnson.
I remember that. I remember covering that team that year, and everyone kept asking me when Welmer was coming back, and I was like, "Who the fuck is Elliot Welmer? This guy hasn't been." He just kept having
hairline fractures. He kept having new hairline fractures.
Yeah, I felt bad for the guy.
Man, that sucks.
Back to this season.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson. Hold on, wait. Now that we're
the last opening day roster to lose opening night.
Jalen Johnson and Rashad. I don't even know how you say it. Rashad
Anthony. Yeah, it was Rashed.
ED, which is wild.
Yeah, that was the three.
Well, Anthony is like first team, like West Pine Bills guys. We had no reason to love him as much as we did. We just loved him for no reason. He just was a
Anthony.
Goof.
Oh, Rashad.
Yeah,
Anthony.
Yeah,
he's a gift guy. He's a big.
He was he averaged like 6 minutes a game here, but we were like, oh, he's a Seton Hall transfer, going to be pretty good. Like, nah, he really wasn't, but just a all-time dude. But Jalen Johnson, though, he was good. I think, was that Ford's first recruit that committed to him?
I don't know, but then he ended up at Mississippi State.
He ended up at multiple schools. I think he played at Louisiana Tech or Louisiana as well.
Louisiana and then Mississippi State.
Yeah. Jalen Johnson was good. That Virginia Tech game at MSG, pretty good.
Yeah, I remember that one. I was like, we didn't suck.
We did win that game. Yeah. And then that's what I talked myself into the year after in the NCAA tournament. I was like, oh, we beat them already. We can beat them. And they just kicked the shit out of us. It was just tough.
Can't believe I flew all that way for that.
Dude, I had a good time until I got thrown out of that bar.
Yeah.
Man, they had a SLU thing at a bar here in Chicago, and it's a really good time.
Late.
And man.
Okay, so this current team.
Yeah, this current team.
I could see us not winning a game.
Okay, so here. I won't go that far.
If
Yeah,
I think we're gonna.
we'll circle back to what you said, Zach. Our guards are too good for that to happen. We've got Gibson, Jimerson, we've got Parker,
but it
we've
doesn't
got
matter.
a much
Okay,
improved
so
Hughes.
It
We've
doesn't
got guys
matter.
who can score.
someone has brought the point up multiple times, and I've hand waved it, but I am coming back to it. We have not seen Gibson play without Yuri. And while Zach, firsthand, you have said Sion is that dude,
Yeah,
and what I've seen of his passing, he's like really good. I mean, he's tiny though. I mean, he's smaller than Yuri. He's small.
He moves the ball quicker.
I don't know how good Gibson's going to be because
I think it'd be great. I was
you think
super
Gibson's
high.
going to be great?
Yeah, I think it'll still be good.
my hunch after getting so frustrated with our offense last season,
Yep.
my hunch is that the ball moving around earlier, moving around more. I'm not saying Jimerson's going to score more or like be like a huge improvement. He's going to be just fine. I'm not worried about that at all.
Well,
His ceiling and his floor is pretty. We pretty much know what it is now.
That's right.
I think the ball is going to be moving quicker. That he'll still see the same amount of shots.
okay, and that's fine.
I think he'll still get the looks. I think it's just going to be from team ball movement. That's what I saw way more of. I mean, quick swinging of the ball. Like that's one thing that I don't think I've actually talked about is that I really liked like, you know how we do that, the weave at times?
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
it was there, but it had some
continuity motion.
It was a little more snappy. It was a lot more like it almost felt like Princeton was actually running it. Or it was like Princeton meets the Globetrotters. Just not so much the style, but how fast the ball was it was moving.
See, the
It
thing
kind of-
that I'm genuinely worried about with like Gibson not being as good and with all, you're right. I think team ball movement does solve a lot of these issues. It's just that like if you don't have, and it's all going to come back to the fact that like if you don't have bigs, right? Like that's going to be like it's impossible to get around. Like if you don't have bigs, teams are going to be able to play further up around the perimeter. You're going to be able to press the ball more. I think this team's going to have a lot of turnovers because of how young they are, and the ball just might not end up in Gibson's hand enough to like really make an impact. And that might be where we see him take a step back, not because his talent level isn't there or his ability to like execute when he has the ball. It's just that like I think an interesting thing to see like towards the middle part of the season is just like how many possessions are we actually getting a game and how many of those are ending up in turnovers. Like last year turnovers was an issue. I think it's not going to get better even though Yuri was responsible for a lot of this. Like a lot of their turnovers were accredited to Yuri. I think we can all kind of agree that like maybe it wasn't always Yuri's fault, but like I think what you might end up seeing is with the group against a bigger team, which is going to be most teams they play against, every team they play against is going to have real trouble just getting up shots. And then on the other end of the floor, like you're going to have no rim protection. You're not going to have it. You're not going to get rebounds. So you're not going to have easy breakouts. Like it's going to be a real slog in the half court. And that's not what Travis's best teams have been. Like they have never been good half court teams. And so I think the possessions and how many shots you're actually putting up versus how many shots they're putting up it's hard to look past. And if Gibson's not going to be as good, it's not because his talent isn't there. It's because he's just literally not getting opportunities against Division I opponents.
Well, and I think to build off of that, like, so I've said multiple times, like, I think Gibson Jimerson has the potential to end up in the NBA. Like,
yes,
I think his shooting is that good and his defense is passable. And he has shown the ability to be a playmaker off the bounce. Like he's shown it, he hasn't needed to do it that much.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest fear with him has nothing to do with him and all about the context of this team. So last year, and even 2 years ago, like last year, Gibson was our best offensive player. I don't think that's disputable, even with the raw numbers Yuri put up. Agreed. But we had a center that had to draw their best post defender in Francis Okoro. And we had a point guard that was dynamic. And even if he wasn't our best offensive player, you needed to put a good perimeter defender on. So Gibson wasn't always drawing the best defensive assignment. This year, he will draw the team's best defender on the court at that time, period. Unless Sincere Parker early on in the year shows like he's going to take a huge step up, which I think he's going to. I think Sincere and Larry are going to have massive improvements from last year. I don't know how many good looks Gibson's going to get because of how he's going to change in the context of the other team's scout. Like, I think Gibson is going to get blanketed with whoever the opponent has that's like their ace defender. That's who is going to be on Gibson, and it's going to be make everyone else beat us. Now, Carter, as your point, if they're going to play small for the foreseeable future, which I think we're all assuming is going to be the case.
Well, there's no other option.
There is no other option. Like, if that's how they're going to play, it's great that Travis is saying, yeah, we're going to run, we're going to press, we're going to take threes. Look, we have 7 years of evidence to say that's not going to happen. And in order to do things like run out, you need to rebound. Well, they don't have big men to rebound. So maybe you have a bunch of guys that have that dog in them, and they're just going to hit the paint really, like, they're going to hit the glass hard. They're going to do everything you want. And I will be pleasantly surprised if that's the case. I think they're really going to struggle to run out and get their guards good looks because they don't have size. And I think the teams are going to rip this defense to shreds. I mean, they gave up over 70 points in both of their exhibitions, I believe. Like, to teams that aren't good. Maybe the second one, it was less. But the first one, they gave up 75 points to a D2 school. Who beat Louisville. Yeah, they beat Louisville and the great Kenny Payne. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not really confident this defense is going to be very good. I don't know if Zach, if you saw stuff in person that differs.
I don't know. I again, it all comes down to the big men. They can defend, I think, in the half court at the guard position. But the 4 and the 5, they lack. I mean, that kid, like, I would say that Wesleyan we would have beaten Wesleyan by 30 if we had any semblance of big men. Like, Louisville losing to Wesleyan is fucking horrendous.
Yeah, it is.
They're bad.
Yeah, I know. It's that. I mean,
like, I don't think that, like, I thought our defense was fine in the half court again, but everything that Wesleyan got was inside.
Well, and wasn't our 3-point defense shaky in both games?
I mean, we were moving around a lot.
Least,
I mean, but again,
for at least a half.
You're talking about like this, that all they do is shoot. Like,
sure, but a problem last year and the past couple years under Ford was we got torched from the 3-point line.
Yeah,
like
no closeout, no.
Like last year we actually had an above average percentage-wise 3-point defense, but we gave up threes at like a bottom 25% rate. Like, we gave up a lot of threes and teams missed most nights, which is nice, but that's more luck than anything else. That's not, oh, we're good at defending the three. The best 3-point defense is not allowing teams to take them.
Yep.
That's the simple fact. Other than that, it's kind of luck. If teams jack up threes against you, which from the 2 exhibitions, it seems like that happened. Again, I can't really confirm.
But
I'm a little concerned.
But will it happen when teams have a size advantage on us, which is going to be every night until we get this front court figured out? I mean, it's one thing to jack up threes if Francis Okoro's in the middle of the lane.
Definitely.
It's another if TJ Hargrove's in the middle of the lane.
Well, then it becomes like a matter of just like you have to like, okay, so then you pack it in, you try and get a bunch of bodies in on the paint to try and take away like passing lanes. Okay, so now you've packed in the paint, you just throw it around the outside to whoever Southern Indiana's Gibson Jimerson is. Like, every school has a dude who can shoot. Has a couple dudes who can shoot. If you pack the paint, you just throw the ball around and okay, don't want to guard the three, we'll take that. You want to guard the paint, we'll take that. It's
I mean,
like,
if you, I think it gets down to the crux of like, if you have to double every time the ball goes in the paint, someone's open. And I love TJ Hargrove. I'm not putting him one-on-one with, I mean, even reading through that Southern Indiana roster page, I'm not putting him one-on-one with those guys.
Yeah,
If they're 230 pounds, thanks, TJ.
I've
You're
got a
getting up
hot
6 inches, and oh, go ahead.
They should have refunded season tickets like a week ago.
That doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen.
That ain't happening.
Neither does four bigs needing NCAA rulings.
They're still going to put something on the floor, though.
I'm just saying what was marketed is not. I mean,
well, nothing was marketed though, right? Isn't that the problem?
Yeah, that's a good fucking point.
Can I bring up
Well-
another, now that I've done even a little bit of research about this, to just my previous point? Last year, SLU averaged just under 12 turnovers a game to
That's
D1
it?
opponents. Just under 12.
That feels so low compared to watching those games.
That's because they.
Well, we didn't play very fast. It wasn't like a super high possession.
That's true. I just feel like we had so many games with like 18, 19 turnovers, but
they gave up
I don't know.
they only had 8.1 non-steal turnovers last year. So
Offensively?
yes. So like they were just throwing the ball out of bounds 5 times a game, basically. Like, okay. Anyways, they gave up 13 and 11 turnovers to D2 competition in or exhibition games. Like, and I've now gone through the stat sheet for the first time. I actually hadn't looked at this before. These aren't like end of game turnovers from like Lamont Evans and Phil Jones. These are like turnovers from Gibson, Sincere, Larry. So like all of a sudden turnovers have become a thing that I'm gonna like look at all year, being like, this team's gonna get mobbed and the ball handler is not gonna be able to do anything about it. And last year Yuri was the only one who could handle the ball anyways, and if nobody gets shots up,
I mean,
why does it matter?
Talk about that George Washington game though.
Was it George Washington or
It was George Washington
when Larry stepped in?
Yeah, I mean, that's another. We want to get conspiratorial. We can go down the Yuri Collins rabbit hole.
Without,
I gotta go look
I
at
don't
that
want to go
game
down
again.
that route. I do want to say, like, I'm really excited for Larry to get more playing time, and I think he's going to take a big step forward.
I think Larry's gonna be legit good. I'm with you.
Yes.
I do think though that some of the talk on the board and on Twitter has gone out of hand with him, because like
Yes.
there are people that are
his
expecting him to
dad.
average like 15, 5, and 4. That's not happening. Like, he played well in the exhibitions, but he pretty much only shot threes. And he didn't get to the rim. He didn't get to the free throw line.
He
Like,
defended well.
Again, I think Larry is going to be a very good player. I do not think he's going to be a star this year. I don't see that happening. And this team is going to need multiple guys to be stars to finish like 7th in the A10. That's just the very harsh reality.
I've sat here and said, we could win 0 games.
I mean, I texted you guys. I texted you guys this morning. I said, looking
It's
at
an impossible
December,
thing to overlook. Yeah.
like I said, looking at December, we could go winless in December, and it's 5 games.
It's only 5 games, yeah.
It's only 5 games, but like 5 of our best 8 opponents are in December.
Yep. You
And,
go on a conference schedule on a 5-game losing streak at least.
and you
Probably
know what?
6 with Utah State.
Yeah. And I hate being pessimistic on this. I really do. I prefer to be optimistic, and I just the closer we get to this team and the more uncertainty there is, it's really, really hard to be optimistic. Even though, like, I think Larry's going to be good. I think Sincere is going to be good. I think
Cian's going to be good.
I think he's going to be good, but I don't know how much he's going to play, because I think Mike Meadows is going to play a lot.
Oh God, I haven't even thought about him.
I like what I've seen out of Tim Dolger. Is that how we've decided?
I think it's Dolger.
Dolger? Okay.
Is it a hard G?
Yeah, according to Guy Phillips, it is. So take it with it for a grain of salt.
Well, I think Tim is going to be, if nothing else, fun.
Yes. People were down on him. I thought he was fine.
He seems like a forward player. Like, he plays hard, and he might overcompensate for some other things by having a high motor. Like,
yep.
Like, I can root for that. I can work with that. I think the little clip they tweeted out of Georgie stroking threes. I like that. It's fun. I know, Zach, you said he's not a good defender, but
Nope.
But you know what?
I mean, he's a freshman. What do you
If
want?
you're like, look, if
Yeah.
you're gonna spend this year, and I think we're in agreement that could be rough without bigs, if your defense is gonna stink, put some guys out there that bomb. Just shoot 33s. Prove me wrong, Travis. Shoot 33s.
Shoot
Lose
40.
every game. Yeah, lose every game 90 to 86. Whatever. If you're gonna lose fun.
That's I mean, I did say I don't know. I did enjoy watching the way this team played the other night, and I don't know if I'll say that if we lose every game. But I think he did actually hold a promise and played fast and pressed. I'll take it.
Last year, the women's team was not good defensively. Like, they really weren't until the last 10 games or so. And all they did was run, try and score, and let things work out the way they are. Like, that's what Rebecca Tillett did, and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. They played 20% better defense the last 10 games of the year, and they made an NCAA tournament. Like, it can work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have guys that are offensively skilled,
give it a shot.
Points. Yeah. What do you have to lose?
I guess what bugs me about this, and like I hate feeling this way, is that like I hate feeling critical of like the 18 to 23-year-olds as if this is their fault.
It's not.
Like as if this team be like as us saying like us like SLU like not winning a game or going 0 for December is like their like I'm genuinely very excited for guys like Cian and Kellen and Gibson and Sincere and Larry. Like I think those guys are actually like pretty exciting like players who I would want to see play.
Framework.
It's everything else around it, right? Like
yes.
you can't accurately judge anything else about this team because it's like you know sending out a hockey team without a goalie. Like, well, yeah, you can have the best, you know, you can send 4 lines over the boards, the net's open, you're going to lose 13-0. Like,
yeah,
it's not going to matter, and you can't judge anybody for what's happened. So like that, I hate to be sitting here because like I know people listen to these. Like we know this to be true, that like people hear what we have to say, for better or for worse, and like I don't want people walking away from this as if like I don't think Larry Hughes is like a good player or Gibson Jimerson is a good player. Or like even what we just said about Jordy, like that's a freshman. Like there was an era of college basketball where it's like, yeah, the freshman wasn't good at basketball. It's like not too like in the not too recent history is like freshmen weren't allowed to play sports like for a very long time. Like that was just you had to redshirt. So like I don't want people walking away from this thinking like I don't like the players on this team. It's just that like when I look at the box scores, it's like, there's like 4 very noticeable things missing from this box score that have been staples of like, look at the last, you know, handful of teams, like who are the players we've liked most? It's like Martin Linson and Jake Forrester and like Francis Okoro. If this team had any of those guys, it would be such a significantly different team that we'd be thinking about like, okay, so like where mid pack in the A10, like can we get a double bye? Like, can this team play their way into a double bye? Maybe.
And playing the odds. I mean, you have 3 freshman big men that all have decent pedigree coming in. I mean, Abu Mugasa shot 70% from the field in France's second division. Like
that's really good.
That's a guy that even with like regression and adjusting to D1, like that's a guy you look at and you're like, okay, you don't do that by accident. I mean, you're not playing against postal workers. It's a pretty decent league that he's playing in. Like that's what I'm so bummed about with this front court stuff is that like I'm really excited to see Bruce play. And he's hurt. Yeah. He's hurt now. Hopefully he'll be back by Myrtle. But like Abu Mugasa, like I'm really excited to see him play. He's got a really fun highlight tape. It's not flashy, but he put up like very impressive numbers in France in the division he's in. And he's a guy that I've heard good things out of practice from. Like that's what's the bummer about this. Like I can accept that this team is not going to be in a tournament discussion whatsoever. Like I can accept the fact that this team at full strength probably is not a double bye contender as well. What sucks though is having your legs taken out from under you saying, all right, whatever this team could be, they might not get the chance. And that's the part that's really hard to reconcile, because we're coming off of a 5-year period where you can pencil SLU in for a top 4 spot, 4 or 5. Like, we're coming off of a very consistent period. And it was framed that this year was going to be a continuation and that they were going to reload. And, you had Brock Weiss decommit, you had CJ Nolan commit and then decommit. He started for North Texas and looked really good in their exhibition game. Like, and Robert Allen, who was on campus for a visit. Like, North Texas is kind of what SLU was hoping to be. Like, it's just really tough because you're like, okay, we were sold this, we're not getting this. And now even the secondary sale of what this team is going to be might not come to fruition because, oh yeah, you might be missing a 30-year team.
Can I just bring up, because we haven't said it yet, that like my prediction is that there's just Big Brad doesn't get a waiver.
He's not going to.
It's not going to happen.
It's
all evidence points towards it's not happening.
Every day of new news from the NCAA of waiver.
They've said
it's not going to happen.
They've said it's a one-time transfer waiver, nothing more. They've said one. That's your thing. Otherwise, it's not happening. He's not playing for this team.
So
probably ever.
We have a
wait. What? Can he not play? Like, is it?
No, he can play next year. But
yeah, I am prophesizing the likelihood of him sticking around for a year to play at his at the place in his life and where this program is sitting. I don't know that to be true.
So he would need another waiver next year to play, just to be clear. So like if he left SLU, he would need
I'm saying his college basketball career might be done. Is what I'm saying. I mean, that would be my guess.
So I will say that we West Pine Bills, we have a couple national people that we talk to that are very plugged in. And one of them came in our DMs a few days ago after we tweeted something about Brad, like, oh, we're still waiting. And they said definitively that, like, if a team does not have an answer by Sunday at midnight, it's a no. Like, it's not, oh, we're still reviewing your case. It's no. It's not, we're going to come back to this, whatever. You need to file an appeal. Like, the answer is no. And I'm guessing SLU hasn't gotten an answer yet, but if they have, they're filing an appeal, but they need to file an appeal either way. And they're probably not going to get it because he is not within 50 miles of home for like a family reason. And they are showing that proving that mental health provision is extremely hard. I mean, a guy from Texas Tech, I don't remember his name, but he was like abused by his prior coaching staff.
Racially abused. Yep.
Yeah, racially abused, and Mark Adams got fired for it, and his waiver was rejected.
They've also seemed to say the chase-off thing isn't real. So like a new head coach at Georgetown.
No, they got rid of it. They got rid of the runoff provision. Yeah. So like, I feel terrible for these guys, but the NCAA is trying to wrestle back some form of control. And I don't think this is on the NCAA. Like, I don't. I think they have to draw a line somewhere, and they're doing it. And they only have this waiver process because there's a legal obligation for them to have it. They want to issue as little waivers as possible. They want their rules to speak for themselves. And
they don't want you to have to even think about filing a waiver.
Nope.
They want you to know the rules. Yeah.
Yep. They just need the
the
option available.
It was on SLU to I think it's clear that there was failure on SLU's part somewhere along the line. I mean, the fact that again we have 4 players that we don't know their eligibility. We have no definitive...
technically 3 at the time of this recording officially.
No, they still have not, despite what Stu tweeted. He's not really reported it. Nobody's actually asked that SLU whether Bruce Zhang needs a waiver. They've asked what his status is, I'm assuming.
Yeah, there's a way to frame the question, but I mean, I'm operating under the assumption that he will be good to go if healthy. until we hear otherwise. But
And hopefully it's tomorrow.
I mean, so yeah, at the time we record this, there should be a press scrum prior to game one, which
We
is
don't know that to
what
be true.
we
Oh, did someone
don't.
say there would be one?
No, I'm just going off of prior years. Like
Wait a minute,
typically
you're
there's
going
one.
off prior years on this, but not on the marketing?
Wait, no, I did go off prior years on marketing.
Yeah, so like I know in the past,
I'm
typically the
consistent.
press scrum that happens, they've done media days before. They haven't always gone well. They've announced like there's a media day, and then Stu and I would show up,
Yeah,
and like that was it. And so like oftentimes the media day is just a day that we've decided Stu and Carter are at. This year, I mean, Rocky might be there. I don't know who else is going to be there. There's not a whole lot of other like local interest about like the Billikens starting their season, considering what's happening,
definitely.
100 miles east. But like it's or west, excuse me. But like it's not for sure that they're going to do a media day or a press scrum availability for Travis. That's not guaranteed between now and then. It's Stu probably gets to them. Like Stu probably is at practice pretty much every day at this point. Don't know if there's going to be something formal.
Yeah. Well, and I guess my ultimate point with that is like I would hope that there is some media aspect to this before the season starts, but I mean, I don't know. But like I think the simple fact is, Zach, like whether or not we know Bruce's official status, like he's hurt with no time frame to return. Like we need to assume that he's not playing until he is. And whatever the reason behind it is the reason behind it. People said he looked like he was moving really well for the exhibition. I mean, I don't know, but the end result's the same. I mean, they're not going to have a single center on Monday. There's just no shot.
No, they're not going to. No, and that's someone who's been practicing.
Yeah.
Like not meaningful. Like you hope that by the time Myrtle comes around, you have a center who's played a game, but you don't know for sure.
And we once again, the theme of this one is SLU just needs to communicate better with its fans. And I think we all agree that with this, with this situation, they have not. I think we've talked ourselves back to the beginning. I think that's a good place to stop. Sorry, of course, Pete walked away for 10 minutes and then.
Well, I had
He
to
has
get
a life.
I had to get an adapter because I got a low battery notice.
Oh man.
No.
Shit.
So
Any
so
final
I went
thoughts,
to go get an
Pete?
adapter that I apparently didn't need.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Not I mean, look, we just don't know until we have a final ruling for those guys, like all of them.
Well,
I just like that's just for
So
it's the weirdest feeling too, right? Because it's all one position. It's not like guys scattered across the roster. I mean, this is a third of our scholarship players, and there are 4 biggest players, and that's just I don't know what to do with that. We're 4 days as we talk right now. We're 4 days, less than 4 if you're going by the hour, from playing our first game. We are
nothing.
Within a week and a half, we will have played 3 games, and I have no idea. I wanted this to be a season without expectations that I could just kind of enjoy. And it's just they can't even give me that, right?
Abusive ass Billikens.
So I know that we're gonna wrap. I do have one quick question I want to end with. Assuming that we have no bigs or one for the year, like just off the hip, where do we finish in the A10? I mean, you can give a win total if you want, Zach. You put up your hand, but like, where do we finish?
That was a total wins.
Okay.
I don't know, dude. I think we finish.
I think we're a pillow fighter.
4, yeah.
Yeah.
Pillow fight.
I think we're like 12th, 13th in the A10. Some team inevitably has a bunch of injuries and the wheels fall off the bus, but like
fire a coach midway through the year. Yeah,
like if we don't have a front court, we're not going to be good. I don't care how many guards you have. No, we will not fire a coach mid-year.
All right. Well, Peter, you wanna give your prediction there? What
No,
number?
I at one point last week I was thinking, well, LaSalle, that year that they made the Sweet 16 run, I think it was 2013. They didn't really have any bigs, did they? And then I looked back and they did have a guy who was 6'8" in the starting lineup who kind of played at 5. So they were a 4-guard lineup, and they had one
Hassan
arguably
French.
power forward playing a center. So they were 4 out, and then they did have a guy who was like their 6th or 7th man who was a big as well. So I didn't even have that example, one that I thought I might even have in conference. So that would have been the most optimistic version, but no, I do think we have enough scoring punch in the backcourt. And look, if we are in a situation where we truly do not have bigs for the first few games here, I throw out Soderov and
Yeah,
Noakes.
I agree.
And just hack if they're not ready yet for the D1 level, fine. Go out there, take a couple fouls, come back on the bench. But if you can get 12 minutes out of those guys or something like that, to where you're not worried about Hargrove or Thames or somebody fouling out, I think that's what I'd do. But regardless, we're going to find some wins somewhere. I know there have been complete disaster D1 seasons from power conference schools lately, like the 2-win Iowa State team or Cal last season. Were they a winless team?
Let's
in
not
conference?
bring up Cal. That just comes back to another.
No, I know, but I mean,
cycle.
like there are just I know there have been utterly disastrous seasons from teams that shouldn't be going, it's that bad.
Yep.
I don't think that's what we're looking at. I think we have too much scoring for that. So I still think we win. I still think we win over 10 games. Even in the worst situation like that,
including
on the season,
including like the D2 game.
Yeah, I think our because look, like our worst seasons, those crew seasons were both 11-win seasons, and I think we'd be better than that. So I'll even
the
say
final
500.
word. That is the final word. You have heard it from us.
Yeah.
We at least have our predictions on record. This will probably come out Friday night. Nah, I might drop it Saturday morning.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. I'm assuming this will be part 2 of 2, but who knows? We may come back at you later in the year. But yeah, thanks everybody. See y'all.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Sorry, thanks.
Go Bills.